It's time for TWiT This Week in Tech. Paris Martineau is here from The Information and This Week in Grandpa's. Also, Sam Abuelsamid, our car guy. He'll talk about what's going on at Tesla. From Spain, Mike Elgan is visiting. We are going to talk a lot about AI, both the announcement tomorrow from OpenAI. What will they be announcing? Apple's deal with OpenAI. Google's announcements coming up on Tuesday at Google I/O. We'll also talk about Elon Musk and his attack on Signal. Is it justified? TikTok's ban, is it justified? And should Apple apologize for its latest ad? All of that and more coming up next on TWiT.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This is TWiT, This Week in Tech, episode 979, recorded Sunday, May 12th, 2024. Musk-stache. It's time for TWiT This Week in Tech, the show we cover the week's tech news with a rotating panel of super smart people. And you will know all three names on this panel. Paris Martineau is here normally on This Week in Google. She's been on TWiT many times, reporter at The Information, where she just published a great article all about BuzzFeed and Jonah Peretti interview, and really good stuff.
It's true.
Nice to see you, Paris. On a weekend.
Nice to see you.
Again.
I was going to say, it was weird listening to the intro. I was like, This Week in Google. And I was like, nope, This Week in Tech.
I'm glad we can get you on because you're not going to be on This Week in Google this week because we moved it because of Google I/O, and you can't do Tuesday.
I know.
So this way.
So I was like, I need my weekly dose of Leo Laporte.
Exactly. Well,
so here we are.
Putting it like a dose sounds like there's something wrong with it, but okay, thank you. Here's your dose. Anyway, wonderful to have you, Paris. Also with us, Sam Abuelsamid, my car guy, principal researcher at it's so funny because I know it's Guidehouse Insights, but I looked up the lower third and I said, it's not on the lower third. But I know it's Guidehouse Insights. It's in my mind. Also the host of Wheel Bearings, a great podcast at wheelbearings.media. Hi, Sam. Good to have you.
Hi, Leo, again. Second time today.
He saw the Northern Lights at Lake.
I did.
Lake
I'm so jealous.
Pickle Barrel. Lake Pickerel.
Pickerel Lake.
I should remember that.
And,
First fish I ever
Pinckney,
caught
Michigan.
was a pickerel, a 19-inch pickerel. They're not good to eat, but they are good to catch. Welcome, Sam.
Yeah.
Mike Elgan is also here. He is in Sitges, in the beautiful
That's right.
Spanish Riviera, right just down below the armpit of Barcelona. No, that didn't put that.
It is
right. Actually, that's the wrong way.
Something like that.
I love Barcelona.
It's the nipple of Spain or something like that. No, it's beautiful here. We last night we actually rented a sailboat and we're sailing around the harbor at sunset, which by the way is like 9:15 p.m. around here. But it's beautiful here. It's such a beautiful place.
I know you did not
Very
see
laid
the
back.
Northern Lights in Sitges.
No, did not. But I saw them on the internet. So
yeah, holy
close
cow.
up.
Paris, did you go out and see if you could see anything in New York?
No, you couldn't really see anything. It was cloudy here in New York.
Yeah.
It was very frustrating. I saw a lot of great photos, though, and I was very jealous.
I've always thought, I'll never get to see. I always wanted to, and I'll never get to see the Northern Lights. And then you could see them in Petaluma, but I still didn't see them.
You just missed them, or you were asleep?
You have to go outside.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's true.
that's the problem.
After dark.
Here's the problem. This is what it looks like. This is Santa Rosa. It's very nearby. It could just be a normal kind of pinkish night sky. I don't know if I could tell the difference. I think maybe I saw them.
If you would be able to tell the difference if you were out there and you could see the
They
kind of
shimmer.
waves of light. Yeah, it shimmers in the sky, and it's like sheets of light hanging in the sky. It's there's nothing quite like it.
Well, we have until Tuesday, there, I'm told, because the sunstorm continues. I think a lot of people were concerned that this being one of the largest mass coronal ejections in years, like in 100 years, were concerned there would be disruptions of radio, TV, computing. The only thing I heard about is the GPS on combines and other automated devices might have been impinged. So the farmers.
It was Y2K all over again. They were talking about satellites being disrupted and the internet being
nothing bad happened.
Killed off for a while.
Yeah.
Nothing happened.
In modern farming, they've really adopted a lot of precision agriculture. So, the tractors, the combines, all the equipment, and they've got machines that go out and automatically weed, and it's all guided by GPS as it goes through the fields and goes up and down the rows. It's really done a lot to improve efficiency in farming because they can plant everything closer, more precisely, and go in there and then pick out. They've got equipment now that can go out and using cameras, using machine vision, can actually pick out the weeds in between the seedlings of the plants that you actually want to grow, and using lasers zap the weeds.
I've seen the video of that.
Much more efficiently. It's pretty amazing.
Jason Kobler writing into 404 Media, the accuracy of some critical GPS navigation systems used in farming. This is the peak planting season. According to a John Deere dealership, have been, quote, extremely compromised. So
not what you want.
Wasn't just pretty lights in the sky.
Not really.
I mean, obviously that's not good, but I do think in a zoomed out view, it's kind of cool that we can still have things that are like, magical fun lights in the sky that disrupt all of our newfangled technology. It makes me feel small in a lovely way.
Isn't that great?
It's funny. Yeah. We go to a lot of farms, but never in the U.S. And, like John Deere's 9RX series will literally wake itself up, drive itself to the field, do whatever, all the stuff that a tractor does over a massive area, and then go back and the farmer is just like sitting there on TikTok all day. But we go to a lot of places like Oaxaca, for example, that we went to, and we go to El Salvador and some other places where they don't even have a donkey to pull the plowing, right? So the world is the divide in agriculture is, Cuba, forget it. They don't even have anything, basically. And so the divide is quite vast and getting vaster with the advanced tractors that Sam was talking about.
We have some U.S. farmers listen to the show. Somebody a couple of years ago sent me a picture of him in his combine, which looked like a living room. I mean, it really was. He was just there to kind of monitor operations. He could listen to the show, watch the show, while the tractor
has a wet bar and
practically. I couldn't believe it. So intermittent connection and accuracy problems with, quote, real-time kinematic systems, or RTK systems, which connect to John Deere's Starfire receivers, which are widely used in modern tractors and agricultural equipment. RTK systems use GPS plus a stream of constantly updating correction data from a fixed point on the ground to achieve centimeter-level positional accuracy for planting crops, tilling fields, spraying fertilizer, and herbicide. Apparently, the solar storm, according to at least one John Deere dealership landmark implement in Kansas and Nebraska, ruined the accuracy of RTK. One farmer said, and maybe this is a stock tip, I don't know, that he was just sitting in his cornfield. He couldn't do anything. Kevin Kenny, a farmer in Nebraska, said, no GPS. We're right in the middle of corn planting. I bet the commodity markets spike Monday. Just a little tip for you. Be a good time to short corn. Or is it buy corn? Short it. I don't know. This is why I'm not in the commodity
Probably
market.
one of those.
One of them. Go long or short. One of them. So, wow. I mean, that's it. I kind of have a recurring nightmare that actually was started by me reading about EMPs, electromagnetic pulses from atomic weapons fired high in the atmosphere. The destructive power would simply be the electrical pulses that it would send out that would knock out all computing, all electronics. It's a particularly devastating kind of warfare. And I think ever since I read about that, I've always kind of feared we are so dependent now on electronics. If there were something like an EMP or maybe a solar storm that was particularly aggressive, it wouldn't just be pretty lights in the sky. We would be in deep trouble.
Well,
we'd have to short everything.
Yeah,
Yes.
in recent months, there's been a lot of reports. There's been a lot of issues with GPS for aircraft.
That's right.
In Europe.
The Russians are jamming.
They're getting a lot of a lot of jamming from the Russians, which is disrupting aviation in Europe.
We talked about this on Security
Steve Gibson
Now.
had a great thing on Security Now with that. Yeah, that was a really nice roundup. That was very eye-opening. That segment.
One of the things he said is that many of the jamming devices are on the ground. So an airplane in the air could just say, well, I don't take any GPS signals from below, only from above. And apparently you could solve it that way, but it doesn't solve it, of course, for anything on the ground, anything they can't distinguish.
Well, it's interesting. It's part of the larger story of drone warfare and drone information warfare in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. They're pioneering the future of using a little quadricopter to do everything. I mean, it's just amazing the things they're doing with hacking, and then counter hacking, and then they're blocking the signals, and then they have drones that unblock the blocking, and it's just really a really fascinating case study. When the dust settles on this conflict, it's going to be really interesting to sort through what happened.
Somebody made the point on TWiT a few weeks ago that what's really happening is you have a laboratory for alternative warfare in Ukraine that in the long run is going to be problematic for the entire world. Yeah,
one of the challenges with GNSS, it's global navigation satellite systems. That's sort of the generic term that covers GPS, which is the U.S. system, Galileo, which is the European system, GLONASS, the Russian system, and the Chinese system. Is you've got very weak signals from the satellites that are going to these GNSS receivers, and it's very easy to overpower them. I don't know if you remember about 10, 12 years ago, there was a company called Lightspeed that wanted to do ground-based long distance wireless broadband using a frequency that was directly adjacent to the frequencies that are used for GPS. And the FCC ended up revoking the license that they had given them because of all the complaints from the testing that they were doing. They were getting all kinds of interference with GPS. It's actually very easy to disrupt these GNSS systems because those satellite signals are so weak.
So even if the European Galileo comes online, it's not going to solve the problem, that it's just a problem in general?
Yeah, it's a fundamental problem with the technology, the basic concept of, you've got this constellation of satellites, and all of these other systems are online. GLONASS and Galileo and the Chinese have their system, whose name I've forgotten. All of them work fundamentally the same way, where you've got a constellation of satellites where the signals are time synchronized, and then the receivers pick up multiple signals from multiple satellites, and based on the time difference between those signals, they can use that to calculate that's how they calculate the position, is the time skew between the signals. So if you're if you've got a signal that is a few milliseconds after the signal you got from another satellite, you're closer to that other satellite than you were to the one that's further behind. So you can use that difference in the time skews from each of the simultaneous satellites to calculate your position. But those signals are inherently very weak. They're not strong signals, and so they are easy to overpower with something else running at the same frequency.
By the way, it's Baidu, Beidou, the Chinese navigation system. And when I went to the Baidu website, I see this: serve the world and benefit mankind. Wow. Okay. Maybe we should just all switch to Baidu. I think that's clearly the way to go.
It's like to serve man. It's the Chinese communist.
It's a cookbook.
It's a menu.
Most modern devices, like all our smartphones, have multiple GNSS receivers in them. They can pick up GPS, Galileo, GLONASS. So they actually use all of them simultaneously.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
Is it? Do you know if the John Deere problem is going to be chronic or if they have a quick fix?
For something like what they're doing with tractors, with agricultural equipment, what you could do is you could set up beacons, at the perimeters of a farm, or at various locations on the farm, and essentially have, a ground level based system that, could potentially have stronger signals. You'd have to have FCC approval. I mean, one of the things that was mentioned in the articles about John Deere, is they actually do have some of these already that are used for correction to give more precise location, like down to centimeter level accuracy.
Like TopCon apparently is one of these.
Yeah, and then there are systems like that. So you could expand the those ground-based beacons to augment what you're getting from the satellites and provide that increased accuracy.
Jason quotes another farmer from Reddit who says, "We didn't shut down, we just carried on. And however the wheat went in is how it went in. LOL." Another farmer said, "Wow, it's really a mess out there. Going to be some stripes in the field. Today it's back to normal." So I guess it will self-correct. It might have just been interference. It didn't fry the equipment, in other words. But but many farmers just kept on going.
Yeah, the larger issue is that farmers got 99 problems, and that's only one of them.
Yeah, exactly. One more.
They got a million things going on, and that's one of the minor ones.
Yeah. Farmers Jason spoke to, this is again from 404media.co, seem to think the situation is getting better, even though those storms are going to continue. In the Corn Belt, May 15th is a critical date to get corn planted. But you don't want to go out there with your equipment right now. Corn Belt can't get its corn in the ground by May 15th. That's a problem. All right. We'll keep our eye on this one. I have a feeling it's a passing storm, if you will. And they'll be back to planting, and there'll be a few farms that might look a little kooky come harvest.
We managed to grow corn for thousands of years before we had GPS. I think they can manage.
But that's kind of my point, is that we have become so dependent on these systems now. I don't know if I know how to.
Such a massive scale.
Yeah,
it's hard to. It was easier to grow corn by hand without any GPS or fancy equipment when it was a small plot. But these farms are giant, and they have got to work on very tight deadlines.
And closer to home, I don't know if I know how to drive anymore without GPS. So can we get this fixed? I turn on GPS just to get across town these days. It's sad.
Yeah. Find the bathroom.
Yeah, please. Nearest bathroom.
It's
from now. Next time you ask Siri for the nearest bathroom, you may get a different response. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit. Hold that thought, Mike, because I want to take a little break. Great panel. Lovely to have Paris Martineau from the reporter from The Information. She has the information. She has the news. Also, Sam Abuelsamid, our car guy. I got to ask him in a bit about Tesla. It's getting wacky over there. And Mike Elgan, who is living right now next to one of the largest gay nude beaches in the world. So I hope you're...
yes, I have verified that fact, Leo.
Way back when my publisher, Pearson, had its annual conference there, have authors and sellers, and I went to see Chase, and Jennifer and I wandered around, and we came across this beach unawares. But
yes, you're walking along. There's a seafront. It's very nice. You just sort of go around the bend. There's another seafront. You're like, whoa, okay,
that's a front.
Wow, all right.
That's a
gosh. That is
there is a seafront. I see the front.
And the back.
You got to be ready for it.
And all the other sides.
And in between. Anyway, wonderful to have you too, Mike Elgan. We're going to debut your brand new newsletter on the show. today.
Fantastic.
Too. I'm very excited about that. Yeah, stay tuned.
Yeah, me too.
If you have been a long time, as I have been, subscriber to Mike's List, you will want to know about the new newsletter. In fact, the conversation coming up is probably right up your alley. But first, a word from our sponsor, Bitwarden. I feel like this is almost a public service announcement. If you're still making up passwords, or worse, reusing passwords, you got to have a password manager. Now, I have to think that almost all of you by now have gotten the message and have a password manager. But if you don't, can I recommend the only one that I use and recommend? And furthermore, tell your friends and family who almost certainly are not using a password manager about Bitwarden. Open source, free forever for individuals. It lets you host your own vault if you don't trust them. I trust them. But, some people say, no, I don't want anybody to have my vault. This will check a lot of boxes for those relatives who have said, I'm not going to use a password manager. It is so cost effective, and it can dramatically improve your chances of staying safe online. They are expanding all the time. One of the benefits of being open source is the development is very rapid at Bitwarden. They recently added Argon 2 as a password derivative hash to replace PBKDF2 if you want. I use it. It gives you immensely more security. They have passkey support. They've had passkey support for a long time. They just announced they've added passkey support to browser extensions and mobile devices as well. This is really great. If you like passkeys and you've been using it, most of the time it's tied to that device, your phone or your computer. With Bitwarden, your passkeys go with you. Wherever you log into Bitwarden, there's your passkeys. Passkeys on mobile are available on iOS. They're in open beta on Android. You'll learn more about this soon. World Password Day was May 2nd. Bitwarden surveyed 2,400 folks from the U.S., U.K., Australia, France, and Germany, and Japan about their password practices. I don't think this will be much of a surprise. 31%, almost a third of U.S. respondents admitted reusing passwords across sites. That's a third who admitted it. I bet it's even more, right? 42% incorporate personal information, birth dates, last names, birth years, raising concerns about password strength and security. 58% of respondents just remember their passwords. Oh, boy. 34% write them down, pen and paper, at work, which means there's probably quite a few Post-it notes and passwords stuck on the monitors or under the blotters, just like in War Games, that movie that came out 25 years ago. They're still doing it. Nearly a quarter of respondents view their workplace security habits as risky. They know it. 45% know they're storing passwords insecurely. 44% say, yeah, I'm using weak credentials. This should be a terrifying thought for business owners. It's one of the reasons we use password managers. We use Bitwarden. It's one of the reasons your business and individual users should use Bitwarden. It empowers enterprises, developers, and individuals to store and share sensitive data safely. With a transparent, open-source approach to password management, Bitwarden makes it easy for users to extend their robust security practices to everywhere they get online. I've been using it with passkeys everywhere. It's fantastic. Get started with Bitwarden's free trial of a Teams or Enterprise plan, or get started for free forever across all devices as an individual user. Bitwarden.com/twit. Individuals, it's free, unlimited passwords, unlimited devices. It supports hardware keys. It supports passkeys. All of that is free. Tell your friends and family. Say there's no reason why you're not using Bitwarden. It's easy. It's free. It's fast. Bitwarden.com/twit. And get your boss to use it too. And if you're the boss, you better use Bitwarden.com/twit. This one is a public service announcement practically. Everybody should be using this. So interesting go-round coming up tomorrow, 10 a.m. OpenAI has an event announcing something. And it's been fun to watch the rumors. I wasn't sure if we should cover it. Rumors extended for everything from ChatGPT 5 to maybe, I kind of like this, a search engine powered by ChatGPT, by AI. But then Sam Altman weighs in, gets on the on the blower, or as we call it now, the Twitter, and says, not GPT-5, not a search engine, but we were working hard on some new stuff we think people will love. It feels like magic to me. Monday, 10 a.m. Pacific, we will cover this stream. Jeff Jarvis and I will cover this stream tomorrow. Are we going to look back on this day and say, May 13th, 2024 is the day the AI became sentient? Mike Elgan, this is part of the stuff you write about now, yes?
Yeah, no, we're not. I tend to think that if I had to guess, I would say that it seems to me that Perplexity AI is ahead of the curve in terms of providing something super useful.
I love Perplexity. I use it for search.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, and I recently became a paid user of it.
Me too. Yep.
I would guess that they're going to do something along those lines, and that Sam is not going to call it a search engine. You still shouldn't be calling it a search engine per se, even if it's exactly like Perplexity AI. So for those who are unfamiliar with Perplexity AI, it basically does a Google search. They use a version of PageRank that they've optimized to even more greatly magnify the difference between reliable sources and unreliable sources. So it's better if you like, authoritative sources. And then after they do this search, they take the results and they sprinkle, generative AI pixie dust all over that and give you a result. But they give you live links to the original.
Let me demonstrate
search.
this.
So it's like a search engine.
I am using Perplexity Pro. You could show my screen. What's the best e-bike? That's the kind of thing somebody might search for. Oh, look at this. What are your main criteria for the best e-bike? I'm going to say price and range. Okay. And then it's understanding question, reading response, searching the web. Now it quotes the sources, as you said, but it also gives you a text answer that is a summary, I guess, of those sources. This is the kind of thing I think people do with search. This is what they want, right?
Right. And you get the little number afterwards, which is a live link to where they got that particular fact.
Right there.
So it's usable like a search engine, but also like ChatGPT. And you also get a little roundup of photos. There's also, in the pro version, there's a link that says generate image. So from the prompt that you already gave it, you can just click a button and get a horrible, DALL-E
fake
thing.
A fake image. What engine?
Exactly.
What engine is Perplexity using? Is it using its own?
They're using several.
I'll show you. Actually, I know the answer. I shouldn't have asked you a question I know the answer to. If you're using Pro, you could choose your AI model. And this one, I'm using one that they've tuned called Sonar, based on Llama. But you also have ChatGPT 4 Turbo, Claude 3, which is Anthropic's, and they have Mistral. So you can choose your model. You can also choose.
You can also choose
model. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can also choose where it goes. So, for example, you'd say just look at Wolfram Alpha. Just look at YouTube.
I like that.
And you can say, just look at what I gave you and don't look at your training data. You can upload PDFs and other files. You can upload photographs and say, what is this? You can, with the mobile app, you can take a picture and say, what is this? And it'll describe it to greatest extent
You
possible.
were talking about the Meta glasses. You finally got me to buy those Meta Ray-Bans. They can now do that too using Llama. You say, what am I looking at?
Yeah.
And it's I tried it on Wednesday on Twig, remember, Paris?
Yeah, and it worked sometimes, and other times it took quite a while. It was very funny to me how many times during the recording of Twig, the Meta glasses would just randomly activate and start talking to Leo or playing music. I thought that was quite
like
cute.
that. I had a little friend on my face, and I liked having a little buddy. This is...
I actually had
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Leo.
All right.
Okay, so I did this fun experiment where I was using Pi. Pi.ai has a really super natural sounding voice, right? And it just leaves it open to. So does the Perplexity AI app as well. When you start talking to it, it's just keeps listening for you to say something and will respond to what you say. And so I have been using sometimes the Ray-Ban Meta glasses with Pi, because it'll give you audio in both directions with whatever's going on in your phone, right? So it's like a Bluetooth headset. And so I like walking around and just chit-chatting with Pi about, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that?
You don't think that's at all pathetic, cool. Mike?
It's very pathetic. It's awfully pathetic, and also I've done it in Mexico, and people are looking at you.
Funny. He's talking to itself.
Yeah.
They could just think that you're on a phone call. They don't have to know it's a computer.
Or on drugs.
Exactly. But what I like, what's interesting about it in terms of a glimpse of the future is that there's an element of agency to it. It sort of decides to bring things up, or it's sort of like, that's very rare in any of the tools we have for a virtual assistant or a chatbot to say, hey, what about this? And based on your context, based on the previous conversation. So it's kind of, I think it's a little glimpse of where we're going.
Here's one of the
not
things.
Not particularly a good one, but.
So for people to understand, I think it's helpful to understand. I've kind of watched a lot of YouTube videos, and I think I kind of understand how all this stuff works. There's various ways to train an AI. We've talked about neural networks in the past and expert systems, but most of these right now are what we call large language models. That's where that LLM comes from in Llama and everything else. A large language model basically trains itself on a vast corpus of knowledge. I mean, the internet, right, of text. If it's images, it'll do the same with images. And then builds up a probability database of what word follows this word. And then it kind of uses those weights to, like autocorrect, put together a sentence. Now, that kind of makes it sound like it's not too bright, but if you get a big enough corpus and you can train it long enough, it actually does a pretty credible job of imitating human writing or images, as we know, because
but it still doesn't actually understand.
It has no idea what it's. No, it's. But we're increasingly getting to the point where that doesn't.
It's mimicking what it's seen.
Right, but we're increasingly at the point where that distinction is a distinction without a difference. It's like, well, yeah, but it sounds like it's human, so what do we care if it understands? There's a second stage to all of this, which is called tuning. So you get the LLM, which makes a giant model, and these models sometimes can be gigabytes, often are gigabytes worth of data, which is a compressed down model. And then you tune it. And so that's when you see all these different kinds of AIs based on Llama or based on OpenAI, they're tuning it. One way of tuning it would be to be able to read X-rays. So you would then add additional information about how to read X-rays. So you have the base model tuned to do something specific. And then there's an additional part, which is the number of tokens it can consider while it's doing all of this. And this is what's really interesting. Right now, OpenAI's best AI, ChatGPT, has a cutoff date. Its LLM was trained up to, I don't know what it is currently, if it was a year or so ago in the past, but it's probably more recent. But that's when it's, okay, we got it all, we're going to stop. No more LLM building. We can tune, we can do more, but we're going to basically stop. And that is a little bit limited because you could ask it, for instance, what's the latest iPad? And it would be wrong. It would not know about the ones that were released this week. So there are ways to get around that. But what I think you're saying, Mike, is what Perplexity is doing, which is take all of that and then allow it to consult the internet and apply new information to its existing LLM. And
yes, and
I think
even
that's
more than that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, another thing you can do, you can just grab a link. Let's start with 5 links. So you can just grab 5 links and drop them into the prompt window of Perplexity AI, and it will give you information based on those 5 links. If you take one link, it literally just references that page. It specifically mentions, it says, in this page on Ars Technica, the writer so and so said blah blah blah, make the point. So it's much more disciplined than ChatGPT at not using the vast database for facts or information. It'll use it for language, for other things presumably, but it's much more reliable in that sense. The tuning that you're talking about, I think, is much better on Perplexity AI, and it's able to be narrow in where it draws the information. I've seen it hallucinate a couple of times, but it's like not bad. It's pretty good. You know, you don't want to use it as one of the things I like about it as a journalist is that if I get a result, I can just fact check it based on what the links they provide. And also I can ask it to go get other information. I can ask for alternative points of view.
Yeah.
It's really great at maintaining the context. So it's pretty good in that respect. But I would absolutely, you know, as a source of information, a thing to bounce things off of, it's better than Google search and it's better than ChatGPT.
I actually been using Google's Gemini, which is quite impressive and does do both. In fact, I hooked it up to the action button on my iPhone. So now I can talk to, when I press the action button, I can talk to Gemini. And sometimes it'll talk back and sometimes it won't. So actually, it's been I was talking to it. So sometimes it just gives a response, search response. So I know it's hooked up. But I can also say, how old is Alan Alda?
88 years old.
And for some reason, it will answer those things in speech. I'm not sure why. But this is search, right? This is Gemini AI doing search. So Google's already doing this. And for good reason. Google's terrified, right? OpenAI and others are real threats to Google's hegemony.
I'm interested, what has your guys' experience been so far with Google's new feature, which is whenever you search something, it'll have an AI-generated kind of response up at the top? And I mean, I guess to their credit, they say in a disclaimer, these are AI-generated responses. They may or may not be accurate, but I've found at least over the last week that they've just been wildly inaccurate every time. I just completely ignore it. Like today I was rewiring, I think it's powered by Gemini. I was like rewiring a lamp and like had to Google something related to that, and it was 100% inaccurate.
It's very hit and miss. And frankly, I've found all of the AIs that I've played with really to be quite hit and miss. When I was at NVIDIA GTC a little more than a month ago, I was in a Q&A session with Jensen Huang, and
by the way, one of the big beneficiaries of all of this is NVIDIA and Jensen Huang, because they are making the hardware that everybody has to use. They're the Levi's, they're the picks and shovel guys.
But reinforcing, what you were saying about tuning, tuning, I think in many ways is actually the most important part of this. And something that Jensen said was really interesting. He talked about how, as humans, we take in information and we digest it and process it and kind of link it together with the other things that we've learned before. If as a human, if we take in the information and we go sit in a room and we just keep thinking about it and processing it and reprocessing it continuously, eventually we'll come out of that room and be completely insane. If we don't have something to ground ourselves.
You don't want an insane AI. I'm just saying.
And I think this is the risk that we are increasingly running with AI, because especially if it we've trained these models on all the content that's out there, everything that's been created up to this point. But now increasingly we're getting junk that is being published on the internet that is generated by AIs, and it is effectively like that, where these systems are processing and creating information and reprocessing it and just regurgitating and retraining themselves on the crap that they have already generated. And this is, I think, what is leading to a lot of the hallucination. And I think what we're if we're not very careful, I think if we use these systems selectively, like Leo, what you do with your Lisp GPT, or have very specific tasks, have systems that are tuned to a very specific use case with a specific corpus of data, a specific set of data, I think they can be very useful to us. But if we try to rely on these things being, just general purpose information generators, I think we're increasingly going to find ourselves getting fed garbage, because it's going to be retraining itself on the garbage that it has already generated and processing it without having that grounding in truth. That's the thing that Jensen talked about is, these systems, they have to be grounded in truth. And if they're not, and if we are feeding them, it's like, when we had mad cow disease in England in the early 90s, we were feeding cows material that was, reprocessed cows. That had already been sick, and it led to a very bad result. And I think the same thing is potentially possible, and actually probably likely with these systems if we don't constrain, any of. I think if we try to generalize them, I think we are going to get into that kind of thing. If we don't have some way to ground the system in truth.
Well,
yeah, and so there's a threat, there's a risk with data being consumed that's generated by LLMs, but there's also a huge risk of data generated by people, because people are wrong, dumb, misguided, etc. sometimes as well. And so I think there's a huge opportunity for further innovation of evaluating both synthetic and human data. There's a whole realm that has to be explored there, and I think we absolutely have to do it. One of the upsides is that I've been afraid for many, many years that we are headed for a world of what Danny Sullivan called the one true answer. And Google is super into this still, because they know that if you have a virtual assistant, you ask a question, it's like, well, here's the answer. Well, lots of important information isn't just an answer. Some of these chat bots are actually getting very good at making it a conversation. So they give you a context, they give you pro, con, whatever, and then they give you 3 canned questions. Would you like to know more about this? Would you like to know more about that? Or you can write in some more. So when we're wearing AI glasses and we're talking to these things, which is, I think, going to be a major use case for using chatbots for just informational retrieval, we're going to want to. We don't want the one simple answer that is just selected by Google. What we want is to have a little conversation, so we understand the problems, we understand the uncertainty, and just have contextual information about what we're doing. And I think seems to be where we're headed. And I think that sort of gives me a good feeling, much more so than the one true answer future that I've been dreading.
Well, get ready, because I do think that what OpenAI announces tomorrow will have something to do with the fact that, according to Bloomberg, Apple has now closed in on the deal with OpenAI to put ChatGPT on an iPhone. Yes, they're talking to Google as well, and you saw I just used Gemini on Gemini. I just used, Mike
Gemini
will know
cricket.
why I call it Gemini. Gemini was what we used to call the NASA program right after Mercury. There was Mercury,
right.
Then Gemini, and then Apollo. But I guess it's Gemini, I guess. So if Apple puts, I'm thinking, plus, by the way, okay, the OpenAI thing is tomorrow. The Google thing is the day after Google I/O, where Google is clearly going to announce a bunch of AI stuff, maybe even a deal with Apple. I have to think OpenAI, they had put this announcement off. I think that there's a reason it's right the day before Google I/O. And then in a few weeks, we're going to hear Apple talk about AI everywhere. They used the word AI in their iPad announcement this week, almost as much as they used 5G a couple of years ago. It really peppered throughout. Apple clearly is feeling the sting of being a little bit behind Microsoft and Google on AI.
I don't think Apple's going to let anybody announce anything that Apple's doing until Apple is ready to announce it themselves.
Good point. So OpenAI is unlikely to say Siri, use the S word. But I wouldn't be surprised that that's what they're going to. I will suspect they'll talk about is a chatbot, that you could put on your phone that could maybe make Google better and Siri better and Amazon Echo better. I don't know. I think that's what we'll see. Something's going to happen, and the fact that Apple's getting close to a deal with OpenAI makes me think this is something along those lines. You don't? Do you? Yeah, I think that's nuts.
I think there's a whole. I think what they may announce is some kind of tool that will help users use ChatGPT or all of their offerings in a more constructive or creative way. It may have a lot to do with the input side, where you can have where companies, authors and so on have more control over whether their content goes into the Borg collective. Back to Perplexity AI, they have a tool that's in beta test right now, where they are basically turning it into a content creation tool. You basically get a thing that's like a word processor, and you ask, you do a prompt to build an article. The AI takes a stab at it. You edit it so that they encourage human editing of this article, and then you can add photos or create photos or pictures or images with AI, and then you publish it on their site. And so it seems to me like it's a cross between the Wikipedia and ChatGPT and TikTok and something. It might even be a social type thing. So those kinds of tools, I think, are something that OpenAI probably wants to get into, because everybody's using ChatGPT, but
it's a little bit of a toy.
A lot further.
Yeah,
they could go a lot further. I also, the dark horse prediction, something I've been calling for them to do is they should come out with their own glasses. Like all of these LLM chatbot companies should have their own Ray-Ban Meta glasses type glasses.
Do you think that's risky, though? I worry that these companies think that that's risky, given the way that Google Glass has gone, and the way that the response we've seen to things like the Humane Pen. It seems like the bar to make a successful wearable device is much higher than simply figuring out the software aspect.
Google Glass didn't have AI, and the Rabbit R1 or whatever it is, and the Humane Pen. The problem with them was that they weren't glasses. Glasses are something that are already socially acceptable to wear. That's as close as you can get to the sense organs of a human being. Right next to the ears, right close enough to the mouth where you can interact with it, right over the eyes where you can get visual information. And there's a whole industry in Silicon Valley that we haven't really seen emerge, where they're building. They want to take on Luxottica.
Who, by the way, makes those Ray-Bans. When I got my Ray-Bans, the box said Luxottica on it, and I forgot that they own.
Of course, they
own every brand.
They own
all the brands. Right, exactly. But there are companies in Silicon Valley that are working on
Warby Parker,
the technology, also the designs.
Yeah,
they have like 30 designs, and
I'm waiting for my Brilliant Labs glasses to come. I ordered the Brilliant Labs glasses.
Well, those are you're going to look like Dexter from Dexter's
I don't care if they work. If they do, they are augmented reality. If they
look
work,
cool.
Well,
I gotta.
You're the type that would like Dexter.
Yeah.
I ordered them. I don't know. They were supposed to come out last month. Obviously, these kinds of things take longer. I just think it's going to be interesting to see what Heads Up can add to this. But here's Apple's problem. They released Vision Pro. They put out kind of the wrong product. Or do you think that that's a stepping stone to glasses?
That's a very different product. I mean, I think that that's a high resolution.
I agree.
Sort of, and then I think there'll be a real use case for that in the future. But that will be that'll be the desktop Mac product. The future iPhone is going to be a lot more like Ray-Ban Meta glasses. That with visuals, and of course Google itself is going to be almost certainly announcing their consumer AI glasses at Google I/O.
Oh, you think they will? Good.
I think they will. Yeah, I think they will. But I think if Ray-Ban Meta has proved anything, it's that this is a super viable category. There's another company who makes glasses that are $160, and they have like 300 different frames that are name brand frames. They use ChatGPT, and they somehow do it through Siri on the iPhone. And when you ask them a question, they're almost answering it before you finish the question. They are so fast that it's like really mind blowing.
That is a little bit of an issue with the Meta, as you saw, Paris. It's sometimes I'd ask a question, and then I'm just sitting there glazed for 20 seconds waiting for an answer, and it makes me look like an idiot, frankly, because my eyes start focusing in the distance, and I just sit there waiting. I think that's one problem that we're going to have to solve, but we'll get faster with these. Here's the story from the New York Times. They have their own sources at Apple. Apple, they say, will revamp Siri to catch up to its chatbot competitors. Apple plans to announce that it'll bring generative AI to iPhones. This won't be till WWDC in June. Story from Trip Mickle, Brian X. Chen, and Cade Metz, all three who've been reporting on Apple for as long as I can remember. So clearly Siri has a problem, and that's what they're saying. They're saying Apple executives were... Apple fears if it fails to develop its own AI system, the iPhone could become a dumb brick compared with other technology. And I think they realized last year in some testing that Siri was a dope and that they needed to do something better. They just figured
that out?
What's it? Yeah, they have the scenario. Apple's top software executives decided early last year that Siri needed a brain transplant. The decision came after the executives, Craig Federighi and John Giandrea, spent weeks testing OpenAI's new chatbot, and it made Siri look antiquated, said two people familiar with the company's work who didn't have permission to speak publicly, but did anyway. So it's been a year. It often misunderstood questions. ChatGPT, on the other hand, knew that if someone asked for weather in San Francisco and then said, what about New York? They were looking for a forecast for New York. Siri could not do that. So anyway, June 10th, we'll find out what Apple's up to. Monday, tomorrow, May 12th, 13th, we'll find out what OpenAI's up to. And May 14th, we'll find out what Google's up to. So it's going to be a week. It's going to be a very big couple of weeks. Yeah. To find out what's happening. Are these the glasses you were talking about, the Solos, Mike? Somebody put this in the Discord.
No,
Solos smart glasses.
No, they're called. Man, I'm spacing on. I actually have a pair.
There's so many of them. That's the problem. I can't wait to get my Brilliant Labs glasses. I know they're going to break my heart.
Yeah.
And I know I'm going to look like Poindexter, but
so I don't know if you know this, but that's the company that came out with the AI monocle.
I do know that. Yes.
Oh, yes, we are aware.
We are well aware, aren't we, Paris?
Okay, so
Leo's got a dumb monocle around here somewhere.
The company that I referenced earlier is called Avigent. It's a Silicon Valley-based light engine company. So they make the little part that projects AR data onto your lens, your glass lenses. They make really nice looking glasses, and their whole model is to work with AI companies so that the AI company can sell branded glasses. This whole model is like a great idea.
Kind of like what Google Glass was, except Google Glass was projecting it to effectively a screen over your eyebrow. I know you were a glass hole. This goes right under the glass lens, which is exactly what it should do.
The glasses look totally normal. They look like absolutely regular glass, more so than Ray-Ban Meta glasses do. Yeah. A little more expensive because they're trying to do the visual thing. They can do it in both lenses or one of them, and there's a whole. They have some really sophisticated technology for doing that kind of stuff. But to me, it's the model. So these are like the. This is like IBM and Microsoft, right? They make the hardware that's kind of a commodity where you just pick the style, you put your prescription lenses in it, or you get sunglasses or both, and then the company is going to brand it. OpenAI, for example, should brand their own glasses. Perplexity should brand they all should have their own like hardware to go with these things, and it's inexpensive. Right? The kind with visuals in it are more expensive.
I think
but
these look
audio
pretty
only
good, Paris. If you saw this on Hinge,
perfect.
Would you?
You need a bow tie.
Yeah, that's definitely the look that all the Brooklyn girlies are going for.
Swipe left or swipe right? That's the question. I look like Jerry Lewis, I think, is what.
You do look like you're about to do like a comedy special that's a little off kilter.
Off kilter with Leo. I can't wait. I really can't wait to get these They're doing something a little different, Mike, because you talked about the Avigents are a projector projecting onto the lens. This has an OLED layer in the glass. So there's an actual screen in the glass, and they're able to control it just as you would an OLED TV with circuitry on either side of it. I think that's actually maybe a better way of doing it. We'll see.
I'm curious how thick they're going to be, Leo.
Well, here, let me show you.
They look like Coke bottle bottoms. I mean, they look really
well, I'm getting my prescription.
But
since my prescription is as bad as yours, Paris, it's going to clearly be.
I was going to say it's going to be like double thick.
I can't wait.
And I think the visual component is not as necessary as the glasses look like. Not like that. So go to lucid.co, which is LUCYD.co.
All the
this company is the one making $160 smart glasses that work like Ray-Ban Metas. Not quite as elegant, not quite as high quality, but very inexpensive and much better styles.
And they come from big brand names. Yeah.
Nautica, etc.
Let me turn off my ad blocking.
Doing basically, their model is they work with these companies and they just make whatever this part of the glasses is called from this to the
temple
to the
piece,
ears.
we call that.
The temple. They make the temple, and all the electronics and batteries and everything is in the temple.
Interesting.
And they're really good. They're really good, and these look like regular glasses.
They say they'll prevent accidents, but then they also say it uses Siri, which makes me think it's going to cause accidents. Take calls, play music. I was impressed with the Meta glasses. Benito, you heard them too. Benito Gonzalez, our producer, is a musician. And you told me this, Mike. The sound is quite good, even though it's in the temples and not in your ear. It was rich. It had good bass. I thought it sounded quite good. So
the Lucid glasses are about 80% as good as the Ray-Ban Metas. Okay. They're pretty good. Not quite as good, but again, they're cheap. And so I think
179, 159. Yeah, of course, adding your prescription is going to add some cost to it. Yeah, I think I feel like we're this close to something. But is the AI ready for this? Are we good enough with the engines?
I think part of the issue right now is all of these products are trying to figure out what the first big popular use case is going to be. Like right now they're trying to do everything, and I think that's really hard at this stage in the AI game. I'm sure there's going to be a point in 2 to 5 years or more that they'll be able to do everything really well. But right now it seems like maybe focusing on one or two features might make this a little easier. I would be incredibly down to spend money on glasses that just did the Google Translate text sort of thing, where if you looked at something and it was in Japanese, it would just automatically translate everything I saw into English. If they did only that would be fantastic.
Absolutely. So the real question is, why would anybody buy glasses, especially sunglasses, that didn't have AI capability in them?
In the next couple of years, that's probably the case. Yeah. Even if the AI is no better than your normal voice assistant, it's still a useful thing if it's the same price for as your regular sunglasses, right? Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's the product. Maybe not this year, next summer.
I mean, is it though? Is the average person going to shell out on AI glasses? Probably not. I'm trying to think a lot of times when I'm talking about use cases
it's not just AI,
large
it's also,
sense. What is my mom?
It's instead of AirPods.
It replaces
instead of AirPods.
Exactly.
Right?
It replaces your earbuds.
I guess that's
you have phone calls through them. I mean, it's actually
it's your Bluetooth headset.
It can already do what you're doing without anything in your ears. So it's just more comfortable to have nothing in your ears.
Rather than, this is also from the New York Times story about Siri, rather than compete directly with ChatGPT by releasing a chatbot that does things like write poetry, Apple has, I don't really need Siri to write me poetry. Apple is focused on making Siri better at handling tasks it already does, including setting timers, creating calendar appointments, adding items to a grocery list. It will also be able to summarize text messages. So we'll see. I mean, this is all going to kind of come to a head in the next 4 weeks. And of course, Apple's pitch And the challenge for Apple is Apple's pitch is privacy. And to some degree, getting these things to work usefully and well requires they send data out to the world.
Yeah, but I don't think, I really don't think, Apple is Apple, and they're going to really lock this down. They're not going to give you ChatGPT. They're going to use ChatGPT behind the scenes, unbranded, to do very, very specific things like the list that you mentioned about, improving results and summarizing texts and things like that. But it's going to be pretty minimal, and probably the minimal nature of it is something that's going to be able to live on the phone, and it will also, to Apple's benefit, give you a reason to buy the new phone, right? Because
one thing though that is mentioned in this article, the people who worked in the Siri division say, is that Apple's tendency to secrecy, to keeping teams independent of one another, is problematic. They are going to need to restructure because AI will not make sense unless it's threaded throughout all of their products. The Times gives us an example, the HomePod smart speaker, which is actually dumber than Siri. It's even less useful than Siri, and as a result, it's not sold well. Apple has got to change how it does business, according to this Times article, and at least one person who used to work on the Siri team. So this will be interesting. Clearly, I think Apple realizes the threat and realizes it has to do something. They killed the car team and assigned everybody that they could who was working on an Apple car to the AI division. I think that signals an adjustment of priorities. Well, we're going to take a break. Oh, we lost somebody. No, we have everybody.
Lost Mike.
Mike's back.
Oh, there he is.
Mike's back.
I'm
He's
here.
Taking a trip down to the beach, but he's back now. All right, we're going to take a little break. We'll come back with more. There's a lot more to talk about. Mike Elgan, Sam Abuelsamid, Paris Martineau. Our show today brought to you. Nice job. Benito kept up with me. Good job. Let me do that again. Mike Elgan, Sam Abuelsamid, Paris Martineau. Wow, he's so good. So good. Who needs AI? I got Benito. Our Let's say it one more time. Paris Martineau, Mike Elgan, and Sam Abuelsamid. Holy cow.
Oh, he is on.
Wow. He's fast.
I mixed it up, and Mike even got fireworks. Well done, Mike. Our show today brought to you by NetSuite. The less your business spends on operations, multiple systems, and delivering your product or service, well, that means then the more margin you have, the more money you get to keep. Well, here's a great way to reduce costs, reduce headaches. Smart businesses are graduating to NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial system, bringing accounting, financial management, inventory, HR, all into one platform, one source of truth. With NetSuite, you reduce IT costs because NetSuite lives in the cloud with no hardware required. That also means you can access it from anywhere. So convenient. You cut the cost of maintaining multiple systems because you've got one unified business management suite. You improve efficiency by bringing all your major business processes right there into one platform, which slashes manual tasks, slashes the errors copying data from one to the other. Over 37,000 companies have already made the move. Now do the math. See how you'll profit with NetSuite. By popular demand, NetSuite has extended its one-of-a-kind flexible financing program for a few more weeks, but don't delay. Go to netsuite.com/twit right now. NETSUITE, netsuite.com/twit. We thank him so much for supporting This Week in Tech. We thank you for supporting our advertisers. You're great about that. netsuite.com/twit. Make sure you put that twit on the end so that they know you saw it here. Thank you, NetSuite. Oh, man, this is going to be a fun week. I think this is a very exciting week. I think Google will have... What are you expecting, Mike Elgan, for Google I.O., besides this AI stuff? It's going to be all AI.
Yeah, I think one of the stories is probably going to be, it's too many things, Google, too many AI things. I think they're going to say, oh, we have this one.
They're going to splash AI on everything.
That's right. And so that'll be a bit much. One of the strains of complaint against Google these days, especially this week, is that small websites and blogs and, so on are complaining that Google search is leaving them behind, just ignoring them, that you don't get the results you used to get with Google search. So it's the most fundamental thing about their business, fixing Google search and making it work for content creators, for writers, for bloggers, and so on. And so there's a strain of hope that they will do something about that. And I'm pretty sure they're not going to even mention it and that they'll do nothing about it because they don't listen to that sort of thing. And so that's going to be, I think, very disappointing. But it's going to be AI all the way down, and it's going to be too much.
Yeah, actually, Paris, we've been talking about this on This Week in Google, the small businesses and big businesses who are losing traction as Google changes its search results to perhaps get rid of spammy and SEO-driven links. I mean, this is the problem. It's hard to know if this is Google responding to the crapification of the web or the crapification of Google and Facebook.
Yeah, I was going to say, or if it's part of this larger trend that I feel like people have been paying more attention to recently, which is the Google search team being increasingly influenced by Google Ads and the moneymakers.
Yes.
I'm sure none of that will be mentioned at Google I/O. They're typically, I feel like, very opaque when it comes to how like the nitty gritty behind how search results work, in part because they don't want people to game the system. But it's quite interesting to have as an undercurrent to this event, to have it be a time where a lot of small, medium businesses as well as major media companies have seen a major hit to their traffic, their SEO traffic, based on just strange behind-the-scenes changes that no one can seem to explain.
And it coincides with the loss of traffic from social, so it's pretty tough to have a website these days.
Yeah, this comes also from your friend Ed Zitron's piece on the man who ruined Google search. Prabhakar Raghavan, who's now in charge of Google search, who, in fact, before ruining Google search, ruined Yahoo search. I wonder if we're going to see Raghavan at all on the stage Tuesday, or if you're right, Mike, that they're just going to avoid the entire issue and talk about I think Google would like us to forget that what they really are is an ad company. And
if Google's smart, you won't see Raghavan anywhere.
Yeah,
you won't see any mention of him.
SEO companies have been kind of playing the game to get better search results. But then what's happened is that companies that have done that are suddenly downranked because Google's trying to get rid of spammy content. We've seen some of the biggest sites in the world lose as much as half of their traffic after Google's latest changes. But you're right. They're not. None of this is going to come up.
Nope. They have other priorities.
Is some of this really Google hand-waving, trying to get us to, no, don't look at that. Look over here, AI. We're gonna have AI. Here's the story from The Verge. They quote the story we've talked about a couple of weeks ago from House Fresh, which is an air purifier reviews site. They wrote in February about how they were losing traffic because people were creating pages that were bogus review pages, but are getting all the traffic from Google. And then we see that Google starts to cut the results on these other sites. It's gotten very sketch out there, and I guess the real issue is, what does Google owe the web? What does the web owe Google? And can you make money on the web these days? Or maybe the whole idea of a website with ads is flagging, is futureless. The other stat I should throw in here is that 52% of all Americans, according to Pew, use ad blockers. More than half.
Yeah, it's tough for everybody out there. Leo, have you heard about or talked about the dead internet theory?
No.
It's
doesn't sound
good. It's a
good.
conspiracy theory. is a conspiracy. It's one of those conspiracy theories that's pretty much mostly true, which is that the rise in synthetic content, algorithmic curation, bots, and stuff like that is now a vast majority of the stuff on the internet. So this problem with small websites getting traffic is, as you pointed out, from Google's side, there's just so much garbage out there being automatically churned out. I've seen YouTube videos where people are like, yeah, you can write a book in 3 hours with ChatGPT, and people are doing that. They're writing like several books a day and just churning them out. And as book authors have to sort of, it's not about competing with an AI generated book, which is going to be absolute garbage, but it's just like getting noticed when the number of players in the game is exponentially larger. I think that's a big thing that's happening. But the dead internet theory is at least fun. There's some true believers who have take a very conspiratorial look at it. But it's a fun thing to search for and look at and talk to AI about.
There's an excellent article in The Atlantic about all of this, saying maybe you missed it, but the internet died 5 years ago. And the problem is, even if it is, we kind of know that's not true. It's also, we kind of know it is true, or it's the trend. And in particular, the notion that dead internet theory suggests that the internet has been almost entirely taken over by artificial intelligence. And the problem is, it's not just the web. It's going to be books on Amazon, music at the Apple iTunes store. It's going to be movies. I feel like our entire culture is going to be taken over by people who are trying to game the system. You saw the story about the guy. We did the story on This Week in Google about the guy who's making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year generating bogus songs on Spotify.
Well, I mean, he technically writes the songs. He just spends like 5 minutes on every song.
There's songs about poop and things, right?
Yeah, they're, the lowest common denominator of content, I guess, that isn't AI generated. But I do think that there's some merit to this concept that as it gets easier and easier to generate content of all types in just, the click of a button, the write of a prompt.
Yeah, the fact
it's going to be harder to find good content amid all the slop.
The fact that this guy has written 80,000 songs in the last 10 years to generate income, even if it's pennies at a time, it adds up. The fact that he wasn't using AI is just, a matter of timing. He'll be using AI from now on, right?
Yeah.
Why shouldn't he?
But the frustrating thing is, this is why we need Google now more than ever.
We need a good Google. We need a Google that works.
Yeah. To bring us to the good sites and get us through the chaff.
But does it?
Ignore the chaff.
It doesn't.
Not yet.
Yeah. I don't think there's any system that can yet. And it's going to be tough to break through all of that chaff, to break through all of that synthetically generated garbage that's out there. And, I think as long as, I think as long as we've got ad tech that is paying for this stuff, then I don't think that we will be able to get rid of it.
There is an evil human tendency, and Google suffers this all the time. People want to game the system. I remember when Kevin Rose was doing Dig, which was a great idea, that you would put, you would read news sites that were voted up by the community, so you'd get the best news in theory. But very quickly, people figured out how to game it, and Dig went from the best site on the internet to the worst site on the internet. Not
for
very
Mr.
quickly.
Babyman, it wasn't the worst site.
Mr. Babyman loved it. No, so, well, you're talking about Twitter. But so, see, here's what strikes me. This is a great opportunity for us because we create human content. And presumably, unlike Google, we don't have any incentive.
Are we really human, though?
That's true.
Probably.
I've never met any of you guys in person. You could be fake.
Only Paris is human. The rest of us
For now.
are well-done AI fakes. No, I think that that's an opportunity for human-scale content.
Yes.
Because if you are a human, you're going to rapidly start turning away from anything like Google that's generated because it's just going to it's going to be garbage.
Right. And right now AI stuff is the shiny new thing. So hopefully that sort of idea will, people tolerate AI generated images, for example, some of which is actually quite beautiful and quite amazing. But they tolerate it more than I think maybe they will in the future. And this, by the way, you mentioned the change in my newsletter. This is a good opportunity to talk about that because I call it machine society because I think that's what we are. We have a new machine society, basically. And what I mean by that is it basically started this whole, the phrase was coined in 1829 by Thomas Carlyle, a Scottish philosopher, who pointed out that mechanization in 1829 was changing human nature, changing human society. And I thought that was really interesting because since then, up until the day before yesterday, all of these machines, all these computerization, digitization, all that kind of stuff that's been, intervening in our society or that we use as to have a society has been kind of, it's like secondhand smoke, right? Whereas all these AI tools is firsthand smoke. And I think people are going to start changing very quickly because of all the AI and everything all the time. And especially when we talk about our communication. So you guys don't use, any of the new AI-based podcasting tools, I don't think, but podcasting itself is becoming.
We actually do. We use them.
Okay.
We use them. They're actually great. But
yes, they are.
What tools are you talking about?
Well, so this is really important. We don't use it to create content in any way. It's always after the fact. We use it to chop up video. You've received these in your mailbox, Paris, after you're on the show.
Yeah.
We send you clips that you can put on your social. That's done by an AI with human intervention. The AI proposes and we dispose. But this, by the way, my fundamental belief in AI is it's got to be a partnership with a real human to make anything useful. But
that's right.
We do use it, and we use it for show notes, and we're using it for transcriptions. But it's always after the fact. And I think that's harmless. I hope that's harmless. I think our content is always human driven.
It's harmless and it's beneficial, and even as Thomas Carlyle pointed out, all the mechanization is feeding people and clothing people and housing people much better than without the machines. And so there's enormous benefits. So a lot of podcasters using something called Riverside probably use a tool similar to that.
Yes,
where you can edit the audio and video by cutting the words that it generates, and so it's all tied together.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's a wonderful thing. But everything is like that. People building presentations, people writing emails. Everything we do is becoming subtly AI augmented in a good way. And the thing that's interesting about it, I think, is that we have one way to look at it is a partnership between AI machines and human beings. And the role of AI will never stop growing. It will just grow and grow and grow and grow, most likely, I think. But I think that's just, this machine society concept, I think, is a way to describe what we are becoming as a species, or at least some of us. Not everybody is, got AI everywhere all the time, like we are getting to the point. And again, this generative AI revolution is what? Less than 2 years old? So give it 5 years, and it's going to have quite a huge impact on human society.
I just subscribed to Machine Society.
Oh, thank you.
I hope you don't mind this, but I subscribed using my special email, Laporte and Jam57E at inbox.omnivore.app. You don't mind that, do you?
Yeah. Not at all. Of course not.
What is that word slop?
So I've been starting to use this open source, I love it, mailing list newsreader called Omnivore. You see, I subscribe to the information on it, and it goes here instead of my mail, but I have to use a special email for it. So when I sign up, you'll see, Mike, you'll see that weird email address. But now my inbox will have in here, and I can look at the individual subscriptions.
I like the amount of these that are just information journalists who have written the briefing newsletter.
Yeah, I know. I wish there were a better way of categorizing it like that. But I like Amir, so I want to see, when he wrote that. But for most part, it's like I could see Mike Elgan. In fact, I have to finish signing in to that address, and there's my payment receipt and all that stuff. So I don't want it to go to my email. I want it to go to this, which is basically a newsreader.
Right. That's great.
Yeah.
Plus, AI reads it for you, so you don't have to.
Yeah. Oh, that's the other side of it. I don't read it at all. So, the problem is that my email box is filled with newsletters. I'm almost amazed that this ecosystem works, because whose email box is not completely unusable? But this makes it usable, frankly. So I'll start seeing your stuff this way, which is great.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. So I hope you don't mind that I subscribe that way. And I'm with you. I think this is going to be the big story for us for the next, maybe forever, but then certainly the next few years. And this is why I think it's so important that we've got Paris on Twig, and Sam, who's the king of cars, and AI and cars are like peanut butter and mayonnaise. They just belong together. And Mike Elgan.
Or like peanut butter and jalapenos.
There you go. There's a delicious mix. All right, we're going to take a little time out, but we will come back with more. And I do want to talk to you, Sam, about what the hell is going on at Tesla. I tell you, it's crazy over there. First, though, before we get to the ad for this segment, I would like to remind people that if you want to keep humans creating content that you can understand as a human, that is not motivated by some, covert financial interest, the best way to do that is to support the stuff you like Mike's newsletter and like TWiT. I hope we're in that camp. I'd like to invite you to join Club TWiT, $7 a month, ad-free versions of all the shows we do, and we do so many great shows, video of all those shows. Access to a wonderful community of people in the Club TWiT Discord. I think that's not to be diminished. I mean, it's not just humans doing shows. It's fantastic people in the community that you can talk with and chat with all the time, 24/7. And frankly, if we want to keep doing what we're doing without fear or favor, objectively, we're going to need the support of our audience. So if you would, twit.tv/Club TWiT. We would like to keep doing this, because I think you need humans. You really do. You need human-created content like Mike Elgan and Paris Martineau at The Information. It's one of the things I love about The Information is the content is so good. And Sam and Wheel Bearings and all of that. Our show today brought to you by Mint Mobile. Love the Mint Mobile. This is a good example of a company that, is the exact opposite of the big cell phone companies. Mint Mobile eliminated the stores. They eliminated the overhead. And they've got premium wireless service down to $15 a month. We just did a big spring cleaning at the Laporte household, and the veterans are coming. We've got 50 bags of stuff that we're putting out front tomorrow morning, and it's kind of amazing when you get all that stuff cleaned out. You go, "Wow, how did I live like this?" Same thing with Mint Mobile. When you realize how much you're overpaying for wireless, when Mint Mobile can offer you plans for $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, you'll go, how have I been affording this? Switch to Mint Mobile. You get unlimited talk, nationwide talk, and text, and data for $15 a month. I tell you what, when I started using Mint Mobile, this is about 3 or 4 years ago now, I signed up immediately for a year at a time, because it was such a good deal. And what's great about Mint Mobile is while inflation has driven prices up for everybody else, it's only driven the data up for Mint Mobile. I now get more data for my money than ever before. All Mint Mobile plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. T-Mobile. They're T-Mobile MVNO. You can bring your own phone. They'll even give you a SIM for free, or you can use an eSIM. Keep your phone number. Don't worry about that. All your contacts, all your software goes over. Or you can buy a phone from them. They've got great deals on new phones. Ditch overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's limited time deal. Right now, 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. Now, to get this new customer offer and your new 3 month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/twit. See that? All the plans now. 5 gigabytes, 15 gigabytes, 20 gigabytes, unlimited. mintmobile.com/twit. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month. mintmobile.com/twit. Now, you'll have to pay for the first 3 months up front, $45, $15 a month. New customers on the first 3 month plan only. Speed slower when you go above 40 gigabytes on the unlimited plan. I don't think you're going over 40 gigabytes. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. And look, they got the broadband nutrition label now, which makes it very easy to understand what you're getting. It's always been easy because Mint Mobile's very straightforward. That's those great Ryan Reynolds ads you see on TV. mintmobile.com/twit. Okay, I'm not Ryan Reynolds, but I'm bringing you the same deal. Thank you, Mint Mobile, for supporting This Week in Tech. All right, Sam, we got to talk about Tesla. We got to talk. What the heck is going on? The latest, actually, it's not even the latest anymore. Recently, Elon Musk took I would say, the crown jewel of Tesla, their supercharger system, and fired the woman who was running it and all 500 people running superchargers. Where does this make sense? How did this happen?
I think that one possibility is that
I'm sorry,
Elon
Sam. It's so mean to say, explain Elon Musk. It's impossible. I understand that.
I mean, one possibility is that Elon is so intent on proving that Tesla is an AI and robotics company that he is almost deliberately trying to kill the car business.
By the way, this story was broken by, I'm proud to say, Steve Levine at The Information. And we've seen a lot of rumors. Rebecca Tanucci was the senior director of the Supercharger Group. She was in charge of all charging, also destination chargers, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The rumor was that Elon was going to go hardcore and fire 10% of Tesla, right? And that she went against him.
And, yeah, she apparently pushed back on that and said, look, we're trying to expand the network. We've got new automakers coming in that are getting ready to start using the superchargers. We're trying to take advantage, get some of this NEVI funding, that's the funding from the infrastructure bill, to pay for some of the new chargers. We've got a lot of projects going on. We can't afford to lose 10% of our staff.
Furthermore, the brilliant thing that Elon did from day one was nobody's going to buy an electric vehicle if it's not as easy to charge it as it is filling up a gas vehicle. He built this crown jewel. I didn't buy Tesla till they put a supercharger in Petaluma. Now, it turned out I didn't really need one, but it just reinforces your confidence that you're going to go on a road trip or whatever. You can drive your car and you can get it filled up fast anywhere. And then to top that off, massive victory in the last few months as automaker after automaker has thrown up their hands and said, yeah, we're going to switch over to Elon's next charger. We're going to support the superchargers. And someday soon, and I think Ford's already done this, you'll be able to charge your car at a supercharger. Big win for Elon because he makes money on all those cars that are not Teslas.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
Tuesday, according to the information, Tuesday, 10 a.m., Elon Musk said he would ask for the resignation of any executive who, quote, retains more than 3 people who don't obviously pass the excellent, necessary, and this is the most important one, trustworthy test. I have been super clear about this. Steve Levine got this memo. And then he singled out Tanucci and the Supercharger Network and fired them all.
Yeah, I mean it's incredibly short-sighted. It's a really dumb thing to do, because consistently, what we've found in doing consumer surveys over the years is that the top barriers for EV adoption are affordability of EVs, because they are expensive, availability of charging and the time it takes to charge. And from the beginning, from the time they launched the Model S in 2012, not long afterward, by early 2013, they started deploying these superchargers that address those last two, the availability and time to charge. They made charging much more convenient. They have done a vastly better job than any other charge point operator at creating a reliable network, that's both, widespread, in a lot of places, but also when you get there, the chargers almost always work. When you go to a gas station, it's very rare that you get to a gas station and the gas pumps aren't working. It's not at all
the time at Electrify America and other.
Yeah, Electrify
chargers.
America has been particularly bad.
Yeah.
But EA exists only. EA is the compliance charging network.
They clearly don't care.
Right. They exist only because Volkswagen got busted for Dieselgate, and part of their settlement with the government was that they would invest $2 billion in building out a DC fast charging network. And they have done, for the most part, a really miserable job of maintaining those chargers and making sure that they work reliably.
Yeah, because that's not part of the deal.
They're getting better, but it's still pretty bad.
They only said they'd build them. When I visited my mom a couple of weeks ago in Rhode Island, it was nice. I got to drive a Kia Ioniq 6. Very nice vehicle. But the rent-a-car company budget says, when you buy a gas vehicle, you can pay and say, you just bring it back and we'll fill it up. You just pay, right? Not with an electric vehicle. They said, bring it back with 70%. Or what? I don't know. They're going to bill me or something. So I had to find an EA to charge it up. Learned a couple of things I didn't know. For instance, the EA chargers have 2 plugs, but you can only use one at a time. Did you know that?
Yes.
And there's no sign on it.
I have an EA station down the road from me here.
There's no sign on it says if somebody's using this, you go to a different one. It just has 2 plugs. So dumbly thinking, well, that means I can charge. I plugged it in, and the poor couple next to me got knocked off. Their thing stopped. They came running back and said, what happened? I said, I don't know. I plugged in. They said, oh, don't you know? Only one at a time. I said, where's the sign that says that? I looked over at another pump, and somebody put one of those "Hi, my name is" stickers on there that said one at a time. EA didn't even do that, right?
So clearly, you found one of the older chargers. They have, over the last year, they've been replacing a lot of the chargers, and the new ones just have one cable on.
Why did they have 2 if they can only handle one?
I have no idea. I cannot give you an answer to that question.
It's so crazy.
And I've never been able to get a good answer from anybody at Electrify America about that. But with Tesla, they've done a good job.
Yeah, the superchargers always work. Reliable. They're great. They're fast. There's rarely a line. They have, whenever they have a setup, they usually have many chargers available. It's very nice,
right? And that's one of the interesting things. If you look at the data about the various charging networks, on average, Tesla actually has fewer supercharger locations than all the other networks. They have, I think, currently about 985.
It doesn't feel like that, number. Does it? Yeah.
But where they're located, and they have on average 12 chargers per site, whereas Electrify America has about 800 and some locations right now, 800 sites, but they only have an average of 5 chargers per site, or about 4.5 chargers per site. The one near me here has 6. A lot of them have 4 or 2, and so that's one of the problems. When they do go down, you end up, it's harder to find a site that has enough working chargers. And so there's all kinds of issues with these things.
And this is bad for EV adoption because people see this. Yeah. They don't. The truth is, most of the time when you drive an EV, you charge at home, and it's not an issue. I haven't charged it in years.
That's the truth right now, because most of the EVs that are on the road have been built in the last 5 years. So they're new, and it's people that buy new cars. Well, the reality is people that buy new cars are a tiny minority of the overall driver market. We sell in the best years about 17 million cars. Last couple of years, it's been about 14, 15 million cars. And we sell on average about 3 to 4 times as many used cars every year as we do new cars. Most people don't ever buy new cars. Most people buy used cars. And for new car buyers, they tend to be a little more affluent because they have to be to afford a new car. So they're much more likely to be, they live in a single family home with off-street parking, and they can charge at home.
Yeah.
When you look at the used car market, it's about almost half of those people live in multi-unit dwellings, apartments, condos.
My son lives on a houseboat, and he has to charge his Tesla at a supercharger down the road because there's no other way to fill it. And Paris,
so,
you would have to do the same. You don't have a way to charge your car. Yeah. But you don't have to have a car in New York.
I don't have a car.
You have a giant electric train that you can ride, which is really cool.
I do.
Yeah.
That's a much more efficient way of getting around than a car.
It's underground, but other than that.
No matter what Elon says, a subway is a vastly more efficient way of moving large numbers of people than putting a bunch of Teslas in a hole in the ground.
If we had a subway here, I'd ride it. We have a smart train, but it doesn't go anywhere I want to go, so it's not that smart. Also fired Daniel Ho, who was in charge of all new vehicles, including the Model S, the 3, the Y, the new vehicle being designed right now, or was it? No, it's not being anymore. He was a 12-year Ford executive, has been with Tesla for 11 years, fired. Elon writes, hopefully, how should I do the Elon voice? Hopefully these actions are making it clear we need to be absolutely hardcore about headcount and cost reduction. While some on exec staff are taking this seriously, most are not yet doing so. So you're fired.
If you want to be hardcore about cost reductions, maybe don't try and demand your shareholders approve a $50 billion payout for you.
He gets paid.
That $50 billion can go a long way to developing new products and building new chargers.
Steve Levine writes,
there's also been so much tumult going on behind the scenes over the last 10 weeks. On Friday, my colleagues Steve Levine and Becky Peterson, who are two of the best reporters on Tesla, they dropped this great long read. The headline is "At Tesla, a Wild Week That Defined the Company's Future," that kind of goes into one of the key moments that kicked off this period of tumult, which is this week in late February where Elon Musk simultaneously decided to just tweet out that the Roadster, one of their kind of successor electric cars, was going to be able to accelerate from 0 to 60 in less than a second, which was a big surprise to the entire team working on the Roadster.
And by the way,
I guess until that point,
you don't want that. I had a car that I had the ludicrous mode on my Model X, and I stopped doing it because I almost blacked out. It's not safe to
It's
accelerate.
ludicrous, frankly.
It's ludicrous.
And 99.9% of drivers on the road do not have the skills to control a car that can accelerate that fast.
No, that's dangerous. Here's the
and
great
that wasn't
illustration.
his only.
Wait a minute, I want to hear more.
Our
but I just
illustrations are fantastic.
I have to show this illustration of Elon.
It's really good.
So what else happened?
It was not the only crazy decision that happened that week somehow. In meetings with senior Tesla lieutenants, Elon scrapped plans for a $25,000 vehicle known as the Model 2 and accelerated plans to mass produce the robo-taxi, setting a goal suddenly to do so by the second half of next year, which came as a huge surprise to many of the people working on it. Musk had been promising that the Model 2 was going to come out soon for nearly 4 years. And just a month before, he told investors it was going to be ready at the second half of 2025. So he just shook everything up immediately.
He does say he's going to spend $500 million more on superchargers. There's only one problem, Elon. You fired all the people who know how to build them. But okay, never mind. Okay, I'm going to say
details.
Details. I'm going to say something that you don't often hear me do. I'm going to defend Elon. He did the same thing at Twitter. He cut to the bone, and we thought, you're not going to have a company in a couple of months because the whole network's going to fall apart. And somehow Twitter has managed, I mean, I'm not talking about the content, but technically it's doing just fine.
Technically, Twitter exists. Are you on Twitter? Most people I know have fled Twitter.
And I agree.
The content on it is
horrific. But he did fire most of the engineering team, and the site still runs.
It's true.
Right? So maybe this slash and burn, one philosophy is fire everybody because it's impossible to know who's wasted, energy and who's actually doing the work. Fire everybody.
No, it's not impossible.
It's not. I mean, if you're running a company, you should know that, especially if you've spent how many years, as he has, at Tesla. The person to blame for you having all that dead weight is ostensibly yourself.
Well, that's
you're
true.
The chief executive when all those hiring decisions were made.
But it is, I mean, okay, look. There's a form of agriculture called slash and burn, right? Where you just cut it all down and you burn it and you start over. And I think that's maybe not the best way to do it, but you can do it, and I think he's doing that. He's taken the sugarcane field and he's just burned it to the ground, and now he's going to see what breaks and build it up from scratch. I mean, it's worked.
It wasn't the result. Yeah, so so these decisions we're talking about are not the result of analysis that the problem with Tesla is that there is way too much waste in salaries, for example. I think that was the calculation for Twitter. Is like he basically said, okay, we don't need this many people, and this seems like a very emotional decision. And also, Elon Musk, unfortunately, is a megalomaniacal, narcissistic sociopath, and so people
you're being a little easy on him, Mike.
I won't mention anybody in politics. If your mind goes there, your mind can go there. But certain people with this personality, the truth is whatever sounds good in the moment. So, if he gets emotional in a meeting and wants to do, in a meeting and wants to make a big deal, he's the dictator of Tesla. He can just say, fire everybody. I'm sure it felt really good for like 10 minutes, right? But this is a mindset. This is a personality trait or type, and we see more and more of this in the public sphere, unfortunately, and it never ends well. It really doesn't, and I don't think Twitter is a shining example of how great it is to have that kind of personality running things.
And, as a prime example of what you just said, Mike, with Rebecca Tanucci, she apparently pushed back on the number of people that Elon wanted to cut from the charging group, felt it was too many people given what they had to do, the projects that they were working on, and supporting all these other automakers coming in to use the superchargers. And she pushed back. And so he fired her and then fired everybody that worked for her. That's that kind of, in the moment thinking, that is just, it's foolhardy, and it's just a bad way of running a company.
Can we just tip a little glass to Rebecca Tanucci? That's a good leader who said no, Elon, and got fired with her whole team, but she went down with the ship. And just, what? Good for you, Ms. Tanucci. I hope you land well and you find a good job. I'm sure you'll find a better employer. That's what a boss.
I'm sure she has already been recruited by at least 3 or 4 companies that I'm aware of. That like Iona, which is the new joint venture of 7 automakers to build an even larger charging network than what Tesla has.
Hey, there are 500 people and a great leader who know exactly how to do that. And they're available right now.
They're pouring through LinkedIn profiles as we speak.
Or they're working on a startup, because that's what built Silicon Valley.
That's true.
Disgruntled employees who go off on their own and start their own thing. And
I do think it's notable that you have basically an entire 500-person company out on the market all of a sudden.
And that's the beautiful thing about the fact that they can't enforce non-compete agreements in California. The reason why you have Silicon Valley and so many startups in California is because people can leave and go and compete and do something that they think is better or smarter.
The Traitorous Ape. Traitorous Ape would be a movie. I want to watch that movie. But I'm talking about the Traitorous Eight. This is, I think, what you were probably thinking about, Mike Elgan. A group of 8 employees who were working at Shockley's semiconductor lab in 1957. He invented the transistor. Found Fairchild Semiconductor. They were young PhD students Shockley hired to build the first microprocessors. They left, and the names you'll probably recognize, like Gordon Moore and Robert Noyce, who went on basically to not only form Fairchild, but then go on to found Intel and AMD. They called them the Fairchildren. And that's because they had a bad leader, and they said, we can do better. And they did. And who's ever heard of William Shockley ever since?
I also I happened to mention earlier, we were talking about Perplexity AI, and I mentioned that it's better than Google and ChatGPT. It actually is founded by former Google and ChatGPT.
That's right. And Anthropic
executives.
Is former Google people. I mean, talk about that incestuous industry. AI is the worst. But do read, if you are not subscribed to the information, subscribe. I've been mispronouncing his name. It's Levine, Steve Levine, and Becky Peterson's fabulous long read at Tesla, a wild week that defined the company's future. There's just one paragraph here that's, by the way, the pictures are great too. Here's Elon imagining the future. I don't know what he's doing there, but that's from Getty. This part about the Model 2. The team's initial goal was ambitious, to pump out 10,000 Model tools a week, 500,000 cars a year, twice as fast as the rate the Austin factory was producing Model Ys at the time. Eventually, Tesla planned to make millions of Model 2s. This was the low-cost EV that Elon had promised from the very beginning, right? The whole idea was you make an expensive car to fund a less expensive car and on the way down. At the robo-taxi meeting in late February, Musk tore up those plans on the spot. He told his team to get busy pushing out the robo-taxi on roughly the same timeline it had previously envisioned for the Model 2. It should be in mass production, the robo-taxi, by the second half of next year. By the end of the week, Musk's key subordinates were briefing their teams. Model 2 on ice for the time being. In the subsequent hours, as word of Musk's abrupt strategy shakeup filtered through the company ranks, there was wide confusion about how to carry out the orders. The robo-taxi was a concept at the moment, not a vehicle. He turns the barge like it's a speedboat, said a former middle-ranking Tesla executive.
And it's so funny to me that all this happened because some Tesla employees were like, oh, we're going to show Elon Musk a nice concept video of the robo-taxi that we're working on in the future. And he apparently lost his mind when he saw it and said, all right, we're doing that now.
You have to really be careful when you show people like Elon anything, because you don't, it's unpredictable what he's going to do. Anyway.
But if you don't show him anything, then he thinks you're not doing anything, right, and then he'll decide that you're dispensable.
Yeah.
Which is actually probably a good thing for most of those people, because you're probably better off working somewhere else for a boss who isn't going to, demand your entire life, be dedicated to the company. Because that's just, that's a terrible way to live.
One good thing, though. They did stop any supercharger builds that the ground hadn't been broken yet. Those are stopped. But the Tesla diner and drive-in movie location on Santa Monica Boulevard is already well underway, and so they're going to continue that one. So if you're in Santa Monica, go get a dinner, a drive-in, and charge your vehicle. It's a great idea.
And there were 4 sites that were being worked on in New York City, in the New York City area, that they canceled. They already had the sites located. They had everything set up with utilities to provide the power. and doing a lot of the design and permitting. They hadn't actually broken ground yet, but Revel, which is a New York-based taxi company that uses Model Ys for their taxi fleet, has been looking to have more sites for charging those vehicles. They stepped up almost immediately and said, "Yeah, we want to take over those 4 sites and develop the chargers, develop the charging stations there for our fleet." And there's other companies that are stepping up to take on some of the other sites that had been targeted for supercharger locations. BP Pulse, a division of BP that operates charging stations, is trying to get some of the proposed supercharger sites, and there will be others that are doing the same over the next several weeks.
I also love this Kremlin-like picture from the information of the Tesla executives on stage at Tesla's Investor Day in 2023. 16 executives, 5 of whom are now gone. Head of Investor Relations, CFO,
and they'll be erased from the picture.
Yeah, I want to see the Photoshop version of this. It should be pretty. It's nice because they really spread out, so it should be pretty easy to remove those executives.
Yeah, they should have made it a GIF where the people who've been fired dissolve into nothing.
I should also point out that of these 16 executives, only 2 are women, and one of whom
has been fired. Yeah.
So, good job on diversity.
Well, I mean, famously, it seems a bit difficult to retain your job as a senior exec at Elon's companies. Generally, I think especially if you're a woman, it seems to, I guess, give you a leg up if you're willing to have his children. But that's probably not for everyone. That was the Neuralink CEO, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Neuralink CEO had a pair of twins for him.
It helps.
Yeah.
If I was that other woman at Tesla, I'd be wearing a mustache.
On the plus side,
a Musk-stache, yeah.
On the plus side for those women, it does appear that pretty much all of Elon's kids have been produced via IVF. So at least they didn't have to.
That's a blessing.
Go to bed with them.
That's a blessing. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
The other thing I note, and I only mention this because Tesla has been accused of a considerable amount of racism on the floors of the assembly lines and so forth, that there are no
convicted.
There are no people of color in those 16 executives either. All right, let's take a little break. Much more to talk about, including a victory for the people. In the case of the people versus the Helldivers 2. But first, a word from our sponsor. This is a good one because we just installed it. Actually, Micah just installed the Eufy Video Smart Lock on our engineering room, and it was so easy to do. All it took was a Phillips screwdriver. The Video Smart Lock E330, you can install it with a Phillips screwdriver. No drilling was required. This adds fingerprint recognition to our door. 1 second unlocking. The embedded AI self-learning chip becomes more accurate with every use. It's got a removable battery, which gives you 4 months, but it's easy to recharge, 10,000 milliamp hours. And by the way, you'll get a low battery notification before it runs out. So it's no problem. There it is. That's the battery. Swapping that in and out. But and then, of course, you control it with your phone. But here's another nice feature. You've got passcode unlocking. You've got remote control with 2K ClearSight. You've got two-way audio, enhanced night vision. And guess what? You still have a keyhole. You can. There's the fingerprint, though. Watch this. Micah's showing how easy it was to install and how easy it is to use. And if, for some reason, you want to use the key, maybe the battery died, easy to unlock, too. So you're never left out in the cold. So a great door lock with its own camera, which is useful because let's say Burke is trying to get into the engineering department and we don't really want to let him in. He's ringing the bell and we're saying, oh, it's you. Okay, unlock it. And look at that. He's in. And if we don't want to let him in, it's easy not to let him in. You can let people get in. You can give them temporary codes. This thing is amazing. But here's the best part. I kind of buried the lead. No subscription. No monthly fees. You store your Eufy video lock recordings locally, so you'll never have to pay for storage, and your privacy is ensured. You'll get a worry-free experience with an 18-month warranty, all backed by Eufy's 24/7 professional customer service team. Now, you may say, oh, I don't know the name Eufy, but you do know the name Anchor. Eufy is one of the Anchor brands, so you know this is a great company that makes really good products, solid products, and we love this Eufy video lock. It's been fantastic. Triple security, a camera, a doorbell, and a lock, all in one. You can get yours today by searching Eufy Video Lock on Amazon, EUFY, Eufy Video Lock, or go to EUFY.com. By the way, there's a whole Eufy security system for your entire home. They all interlock together, and you can have a base station that has additional recording time. So it's really a great system, complete system, everything you need. Search Eufy Video Lock on Amazon. Thank you, Eufy, for your support of This Week in Tech. So TikTok has decided they're going to fight it, and I'm glad. I haven't talked to youth. I think, Paris, you and I have talked many times on Twig about TikTok.
Yeah, TikTok's a constant.
We love TikTok. Yeah, for the tunnel videos, for
all of your son's cooking videos.
My son's cooking videos.
For whatever weird stuff Jeff finds.
But also, I feel like there's so much creativity happening with TikTok, and I know that the Congress is scared about, I don't know, the Chinese government using it for spying or for propagandizing the American people. So they have said you have 270 days to sell, which is, interestingly, the day before Inauguration Day, 2025. ByteDance has gone to court. They've sued, saying it's a violation of the user's First Amendment rights, removing an app that millions of Americans use to share their views and communicate freely. They also argued we can't do it in 270 days, particularly since Beijing will not allow us to sell the algorithm that powers TikTok in the U.S. In the 67-page petition, which they filed in district courts, they said, for the first time in history, Congress has enacted a law that subjects a single named speech platform to a permanent nationwide ban and bars every American from participating in a unique online community with more than 1 billion people worldwide. They say there's no question the act will force a shutdown of TikTok by January 19th, 2025. I have a feeling that whatever happens in the lower court, this will end up in the Supreme Court. Actually, I got it wrong. It wasn't district court. It's the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia, where they filed the petition. Thoughts? Can they win this one, or is the Supreme Court just going to throw it right out?
Who knows what this court will do?
Yeah, I think that there's like a lot of uncertainty, in part because of the makeup of the court, in part because of how politicized this is, in part because of the upcoming election. I think it's very interesting that the consensus from a large number of legal experts seems to be that there's no consensus on what will happen.
Just this week, Alito and I think Gorsuch, we're talking about how, we seem to have lost respect for the First Amendment. Now, they were coming at it from the perspective of, trying to defend, right-wing speech on college campuses, but still, there's some very uncertain views on the Supreme Court when it comes to a lot of, what we until very recently thought were fundamental rights.
A visiting scholar, Anupam Chander, at the Institute for Rebooting Social Media at Harvard. We laughed at this on Wednesday. Really? An Institute for Rebooting Social Media. Anyway, he said he's among the experts TikTok contacted on Monday. He said TikTok is going to rely on the fact that they created Project Texas, which was a project to move all American data on TikTok to servers in Texas owned by Oracle. And Chander says the real question that remains that I haven't seen an answer to is why or what more would the government have wanted? We've never heard why the Project Texas was insufficient publicly. We've also not heard, I understand the security concerns, but we haven't heard anything concrete about that. Mike, what's your thinking on all of this?
Okay, so I don't think the data gathering element of this is, I just don't see how that could be super useful for the Chinese Communist Party. However, the propaganda dimension is massive. So let's just look at a hypothetical that's actually very likely. It's very likely that the Chinese government will invade Taiwan sometime between tomorrow and 10 years from now.
That's a terrifying prospect, by the way. That is.
Yes. And so this is a dystopian, Orwellian techno state invading a democracy. And the U.S. will defend, Japan and South Korea will defend Taiwan. And so we'll be in a war with China. When that happens, China knows that one of the easiest ways to win the war will be to divide American public opinion. Ever since Vietnam, it's clear that that's how you do it. And it would be fairly trivial to throw a switch in their secret, invisible algorithm. Every Chinese company is required by a law passed in 2017 to do whatever Chinese state intelligence services tell them to do. It's the law in China. And so this is a problem, right? And
we lost your, maybe that's me.
So,
I think it's you.
Okay.
Talking.
So this is like,
sorry.
The problem with this, because I agree with the First Amendment stuff. I agree with the panic about TikTok. I agree with all that. I want TikTok to exist. And this Taiwan scenario is going to happen.
That's scary.
And
you're right. That's very scary.
And
let me say this, Mike. Doesn't the Chinese government have many other ways to do this, including Twitter and the CCTV, which is available in the U.S. on most cable systems, and Facebook? There are many, many ways that the Chinese, because we're an open society, that the Chinese government can reach American public opinion.
Right. The particular is that everybody who works on social algorithms will tell you that TikTok's the best one. I mean, it's the most powerful
really good.
algorithm for determining what. But the other issue, the larger issue, is that algorithms in general are problematic for this reason. A lot of the problems in our politics, the ability for Marjorie Taylor Greene, for example, is that it raises more money than any other congressperson for small donors. Did you guys know that?
No.
She's number one. Why is that? Because she feeds the outrage machine on social, and those algorithms just reward her with people who want to give her money. The divisiveness in our culture, so many of the things we don't like about the modern world are the result of algorithms that nobody can see, nobody can check, that they tweak all the time. They tweak it. Meta tweaks their algorithms 10 times a day. And these algorithms I don't know what the answer is, but this is a sort of unspoken problem that we have in our culture. And TikTok is one potential big problem.
But
all the other ones are the other problem.
If Congress proposed or somebody proposed, we do the same thing because Twitter is used that way. And that's, by the way, how Marjorie Taylor Greene reaches her constituency. It would immediately be shut down on First Amendment grounds, right? No, sorry, government can't shut down Twitter. So
I think it's also, there's some aspect of this that feels a little bit like thought crimey, in the sense that, yeah, it does seem likely that the Chinese government could use and will use all tools available to it to distribute propaganda. But is it the correct move to start shutting down systems that exist currently on the idea that it might be used in the future? Or should we take a more reactive approach?
I have no idea. I just think it's really interesting that we've got, go back in time to the mid 20th century, and democracies had all the advantages in the global conflict between authoritarian societies and democracies. And now it's the reverse. So TikTok is not allowed in China. They have their own version of TikTok, which is nothing like the version the rest of the world gets. Twitter is banned. Facebook is banned. They're all banned. They control that. And so they can change public opinion globally, but nobody can touch public opinion within China, and it's a real problem. I think the answer is not to ban Twitter, TikTok, but to figure out this thing we've been dancing around for forever, which is what is a social network? Is it a publication? Is it a common carrier? What is it? And I think there's got to be a solution in there somewhere where you could imagine a law, and I'm not actually proposing this. I just think smart people should figure something out where part of a social network is a common carrier and part of it is like a publication. So the algorithmic sorting thing, we all throw our hands up and say, well, we have to let them do that part. We have to. But why? Why do we have to let them do that part in the way that they do it? That's determining what everybody thinks is the power that collectively social networks have, and it's not clear that that's something that people like Elon Musk should be in charge of. It's not necessarily good for society. So you can imagine where there's a law where the default mode is I follow 20 people on Twitter, and the default mode is I see that every single post that those 20 people post. No algorithmic sorting, filtering, or anything. Then there's another channel that I can click over to, and it's all whatever the social network wants to show me for whatever reason they have, something like that. But nobody's even talking about it or proposing anything like that anymore. We're just throwing our hands up and just letting Russia decide what everybody thinks about the Ukraine-Russia conflict, basically. I'm exaggerating, of course, but there's...
I feel like this is the risk of being in a free society. This is the downside to being in a free society, is that we're open. We're open to all sorts of ideas, including ideas that are attempting to undermine our free society. I don't think the way to respond to that is to close down our freedom.
I also wonder, this reminds me in some way of everything that went on with Cambridge Analytica. Is for a period there was this narrative that Cambridge Analytica's understanding of social networks was so powerful, it swayed the minds of these humble social media users. But as we started to look into it, and as the years went on, we realized that just wasn't the case. Like, people who saw these sort of posts, or even with, I guess, the various Russian botnets, people didn't end up being that dramatically or even remotely influenced by these propaganda operations like we'd initially feared. And I do wonder if in 5 years from now, we'll look back on this TikTok panic in the same light. Is it correct that TikTok's algorithm is all that powerful? I'm not sure.
I don't know that we have the data to know one way or the other, whether say Russia, which invented this whole thing, how effective they are at changing American public opinion. We do know that they actually have scheduled, have organized opposing, sock puppet accounts, have organized protests, pro and against, in the same location to get people fighting together, right? We know that they've done that. Like, they've actually mobilized people and got them into the streets protesting, and they managed it in a way that to maximize conflict. We know that's their aim. China's increasingly getting in on that. Iran would love to do that as well. So would probably others. So I don't think, I think it's kind of more of an urgent question than people think. And I think we need a lot better data about it. And I think we tend to think, those of us in tech who've seen a million moral panics tend to think, well, it's another moral panic. But I don't think we know whether it's just another moral panic or if in fact, this is a really, the ability of authoritarian regimes to change public opinion, to maybe change the outcome of elections. We know they're trying, right? They tried before, they're trying again. We know that for a fact. Are they just wrong that there's no point in doing that because it doesn't have any impact? I don't know. It's something we don't know enough about, and I would love for us to get serious about really figuring out how effective this stuff is.
Is part of the answer to this, requiring algorithmic transparency so that we can actually take a look at how they're manipulating the
First of all, you can ask it. It's not going to happen, right? So that's like asking Coke for their secret recipe. It's just not going to happen. it's asking Coke for their secret recipe. If Coke were run by the Chinese Communist Party, it's just not going to happen. But even if we had,
we do regulate ingredients in things like Coke.
Sure,
and there's a list of banned ingredients, and I think that I think that there's a lot of there's an instinct among a lot of people to defend the right of companies like Meta to have their algorithms, and I think we need to revisit that. Like, why?
No, I agree. Do you want to ban algorithms, though? What do you want to do with it?
Not ban them. Just let us know what they're doing.
Well, what if I tell you that the algorithm, and it's probably very accurate, is monitoring every action that users perform on the platform, how long they watch a video, when they swipe, at what point they swipe, then analyzing it to find out what keeps them on a video longer than any other, and then uses that algorithm to promote videos that satisfy that requirement. I think it's fairly easy to imagine how that algorithm might work. That's not the solution, because the thing you're missing from that ingredient is the Chinese Secret Service coming in and saying, oh, and by the way, every fourth one should be this video or should be this kind of video. So knowing what the algorithm's doing it doesn't solve the problem. The problem is that the content can be manipulated by an adversary. But as I'm saying, the content of Twitter can also be manipulated by an adversary. The content of everything can be manipulated by an adversary, because we're an open nation and we let people say what they want. And I don't think algorithms have First Amendment rights. I don't think. I think. But the algorithm's not the problem. That's not the problem. The algorithm isn't the problem. Is that these platforms allow manipulation, not through an algorithm. The algorithm's not the manipulation. Is the Chinese Secret Service saying those videos, see that one, promote those. That's not the algorithm. Or the owner of the company coming in and saying, promote, or make sure Elon, that all the posts from this particular user who happens to be the owner of the company, must be seen on everybody's feed. That's not an algorithm. So, but for a long time I've said algorithms are a problem. I think the YouTube recommendation engine promotes an increasingly extreme video. That's pretty obvious, right? So I agree with you. Algorithms are potentially problematic. They're, for I think all companies, they're tuned for one thing: to increase engagement, hence increase profit. And that's potentially problematic. You can outlaw algorithms. I don't know if that's doable given our Constitution.
Hi, this is Benito. I think this is a demand side problem, not a supply side problem.
I agree. What you're saying, it's us, not them.
Yeah. It's us. It's that people like it. That's the problem.
People like it. They want an algorithm. When you have a choice on Facebook between your chronological feed or your algorithmic feed, people want the algorithmic feed. Same thing on Twitter. They want the algorithmic feed. I pay lip service to the idea that I want a chronological feed.
And me personally, I don't use any of the algorithmic feeds in any of the stuff I use because I hate it. Personally.
But it's not as engaging.
But you're far from average.
You're not normal.
People used to love the beef tallow that McDonald's used to make their French fries. They were way better.
I still do.
But they were better.
Who says we don't still love it?
I wish they'd bring that back.
Well, exactly. one of the main issues here with TikTok is that we still haven't gotten an explanation, from Congress as to why they have pushed this through.
I understand, but let's stipulate that Mike's point, which I think is very well taken, is what they're thinking about. There's going to be an invasion. China's going to use this to manipulate the American electorate. You get 10% of the American electorate to say, we don't want this war, you got a problem. And I agree with Mike. So let's just stipulate that that's it. And maybe
Anthony, posted in the chat link to an interesting article from Axios, Mitt Romney saying that support for the TikTok ban is actually connected to an overwhelming volume of mentions of Palestinians on the platform.
Maybe. I don't.
That one seems less plausible, but
here's the thing.
Given what else has been happening, across the country at campuses and, governors, sending out the
I don't think that's it.
art and
Paris,
everything.
read that National Institute of Health.
This is somewhat
study.
of what I was talking before. This is a study that I linked to in the chat, and it specifically goes into trying to identify whether there is trying to address the widespread concern that foreign actors are using social media to interfere in elections worldwide. They analyzed a bunch of stuff relating to Russian foreign influence campaigns in the 2016 election, cross-referenced this with individual voters. It's obviously a small sample, but the one thing they found that was interesting was that they said, we find no evidence of a meaningful relationship between exposure to Russian foreign influence campaigns and changes in attitudes, polarization, or voting behavior. The
It's
results
a
have
supply
implications.
side problem.
Yeah.
I mean, a demand side problem. Benito's right. It's us. We've met the enemy, and he is us. Pogo was right. I think that's. I think I've always thought that. For a long time, there was a lot of people said, "Oh, the reason Trump won in 2016 was Russian propaganda," and I think it was pretty obvious then.
It's very simplistic.
It's not
a
that.
way to. It's a pat explanation for something that's much bigger.
It's a little patronizing.
Absolutely.
It's implying that the electorate, is easily swayed. And I think the people who voted for Trump sincerely voted for Trump. I think that, the 100,000 people that showed up in New Jersey yesterday were sincere in their interest in seeing what he had to say. I don't think it's fair to say, well, that's propaganda. I never thought that was it. That means we have to address those particular people and their issues. It doesn't.
I do think it's important to look at this TikTok ban in the context of everything that has been going on with regards to we are coming off a period of great unrest and general dissatisfaction and anger towards major tech companies. It has become a major sticking point for both parties, a rallying cry for various purposes that they want to crack down on big tech.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to do that when the big tech companies are American, have powerful lobbyists, and are also used by everyone.
But the Chinese,
in some ways,
on the other hand,
Chinese TikTok is an easy scapegoat because then it also fits the pattern of China.
And it doesn't solve the problem of privacy. It doesn't solve the problem of propaganda. It just makes people feel better. Go ahead, Mike.
The Chinese government also lobbies U.S. Congress, and they've lobbied hard against TikTok ban and have done lots of other things to really push against the TikTok ban, which gives me the creeps. Why are they they claim that, there's no connection, whatever, but why would the Chinese government be so adamant that TikTok exists and be legal in the U.S.?
Okay.
Kind of gives me the creeps. I
agree. But Mike, do you think a TikTok ban will solve any of these things that we're talking about?
I think that I think we have a problem with disinformation, and I think we have a problem with foreign state actors who run sort of authoritarian, dystopian governments pushing behind the scenes disinformation. The degree to which it's effective, we don't know for sure. There's data on both sides, actually. And I think we really need to figure that out. And if we do decide that that's a risk, if we do decide that it's possible for the Chinese government to just say, here's what we want American public opinion to be, and just basically tweak it 5 percentage points. If that's possible, then part of the solution may be doing something about TikTok. And again, like you say, even if TikTok was owned by somebody who was not a Chinese company, it would still be a great place to sort of promote disinformation, to game the algorithms and all that kind of stuff that they already do on Twitter and elsewhere.
I don't think it's going to fix it.
I think also something that's worth exploring a little bit here is how a TikTok ban would even work. I think someone asked in the chat, let's say TikTok is banned tomorrow. How would that work? Would I be arrested for using a VPN to access TikTok? Would ISPs be held liable? I think from what I've gathered from just doing cursory research on this, it would be more that TikTok would suddenly be inaccessible on the Apple and Google app stores, so new users wouldn't be able to download it. But would that mean that all 170 million Americans who have it on their phones would still be able to use TikTok?
But it'd be enough to eliminate TikTok in the long run. I mean, even this conversation is already harming TikTok because advertisers will move away. Creators like my son will immediately find an American company doing exactly the same thing to put his content on Instagram and
he already has
and
Instagram.
YouTube. Yeah,
great place to follow.
And I think, but that's my point. Is this improves nothing? Privacy is not being protected. The American public is not being protected as if it could be. It's theater. It's not a serious attempt. It's a political attempt to score points. It's not a serious attempt to solve the problems.
Like, if you want to talk about the real issues here, it's like in America, it's not so bad because it's like not homogenous. It's not everybody's using the exact same thing. But there are things like, Facebook's effect on Myanmar, let's say. Like,
I agree.
That was pretty bad. Like,
I agree.
Bad. Yeah. Stuff like that, though. Like, globally, I think there's a bigger problem. In America, I don't think that's as much.
Indonesia.
Yeah. Philippines.
Yeah, it is bigger elsewhere. And also Telegram, and it's like there's all kinds of problems with gaming, public opinion, messing with elections.
I want to take a little break
to panic.
And when we come back, I'll show you how Twitter is being used to promote a Russian agenda in a particularly revolting way with the cooperation of Elon Musk. But that's coming up in just a moment. Our panel, Mike Elgan, great to have you. His new newsletter, which I have just subscribed to, and you must as well, is MachineSociety.ai. You're going to focus on AI, or is it going to be Mike's list? What are we going to see here?
It's AI, but also spatial computing, things like that. Next generation, super high tech
technology
that changes how we interact with each other. Changes.
Love it. Love it.
So thank you for that,
Can't
Leo,
wait.
and made out of people.
MachineSociety.ai. Sam Abuelsamid is a car guy. He's got I don't know, 10W40 flowing in his veins. I don't know what his podcast wheelbearings.media is awesome. If you love cars, you got to listen to that with Robbie and Nicole and Sam. And of course, he's a regular on our network. We love having him on. In fact, he was just on Ask the Tech Guys earlier today. And principal researcher at Guidehouse Insights. Very nice to have you, Sam. When you do you have a newsletter? I guess at Guidehouse you probably have an analyst letter, right?
Yeah, we have. There's a blog on the Guidehouse Insights website. You can find that there. I think it's under the latest insights tab on the top of the page, where all of the analysts contribute their thoughts on there, and the reports that we publish and white papers that we do. There's lots of stuff to find there.
I'm always learning more about you too, which I really enjoy, because earlier today I found out that you lived in North Sweden. How long were you in the North?
Well, I didn't live there.
You worked
I spent
there?
time there when I was working as an engineer in the 1990s. I spent several winters up in northern Sweden. Northern Sweden, the area around Arvidsjaur and Arjeplog, which is near the Arctic Circle, is a common area where a lot of automakers and suppliers do cold weather testing throughout the winter, because it gets cold fairly early. You get snow and the lakes freeze over, and it lasts until well into April typically. So it's a good place where you can spend several months doing winter development. And so I've spent a fair bit of time there during my engineering days. Yeah.
I've learned every time.
It's
I learned
beautiful.
Something about you.
It's gorgeous up there.
It's cold though, yes?
Actually, not that crazy cold. I found it actually to be much colder when I spent time in northern Minnesota.
Right.
But it stays more consistently cold. So
I see.
Instead of getting to 40 below zero, it might be in the teens or upper 20s, but it'll just stay that way for weeks on end.
That's cold. I'm sorry, but that's cold. Thank you, Sam. It's great to have you. And of course, Paris Martineau. Great piece on Jonah Peretti, interview with the man who founded BuzzFeed, from that before then, Huffington Post, and his vision for news and where he's going now that BuzzFeed is struggling. Was very interesting.
It's, kind of germane to our conversation. The future of BuzzFeed is allegedly generative AI.
How depressing. How depressing. but this is with a good work. Now you've got to find a new subject to work on, yeah?
Listen, you're telling me.
Yeah.
Any people out there, you work for a tech company, you think there's an interesting story going on or something I should look into, my signal is in the lower third here. It's Martineau 01 on Signal. Reach out to me.
Give her the tip that will create the next long read on the information.com. Is that how it works, or do you go out looking for problems?
I will say I've a very unique period in my career over the last year or two, because I had previously not been that tips based. I would generate almost all of my own story ideas fresh from the dome. But over the last year, I've gotten some fantastic tips, often from TWiT listeners.
That
have resulted in so many great stories.
Blow the lid off your company. Signal Martineau 01. That's all I got to say. Thank you, Paris. Our show today brought to you by ZipRecruiter. Have you ever set your phone alarm? I have, to buy tickets the instant they go on sale. You know, because if you want those great seats, you better buy them the minute they go on sale. Buy them months in advance, sure. When you want the best, you got to act quickly, or somebody else will get it instead. Same thing when it comes to hiring for your business. You want the best people for your open roles. You want to get them before the competition swoops in, and there is real competition these days for great employees. What's the best way to do it? ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter finds qualified candidates fast. Right now, you can try it for free, by the way, at ZipRecruiter.com/twit. ZipRecruiter.com/twit. How do they help? Well, they have a lot of different ways to bring your listing to the top, but here's one I love. They use their powerful matching technology to identify top talent for your open roles. The minute you post your job, ZipRecruiter's smart technology goes through all the, they have literally more than 1 million current resumes, because people come to ZipRecruiter looking for work. It sorts through them, looks at your qualification requirements, looks at their qualifications, then starts giving you a list of people who look like they'd be right for the job. Now, you can go through that list. You can screen them. You can sort them, and then you can invite the people you want the most. You want to beat those other guys out for, you invite them directly. And I have to tell you, that brings you right to the top of the heap. People love it when you say, hey, you look like you'd be great for this job. Can we talk? That's going to help you a lot get to the front of the line. Amp up your hiring performance with ZipRecruiter. Find the best people fast. We know because we use it. It works. See why 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. For us, it's usually within the first hour or two. Just go to our special address right now, ZipRecruiter. You can try it for free, ZipRecruiter.com/twit. ZipRecruiter.com/TWiT. ZipRecruiter really is the smartest way to hire. We thank them so much for many years of supporting our shows. We're very grateful. Thank you, ZipRecruiter.
Also, a brief note that I just realized as I was reading that is the periods, unlike in Google or Gmail addresses, the periods matter. So my signal is Martineau.01.
Oh,
They don't let you not include the dot in there, which I think is
put
ridiculous.
a dot in there, Benito. We've
put a
got
dot
to
in there,
fix
guys.
We got it. No wonder you haven't been getting any tips. Let's get those tips, kids. Martineau.01.
There we go, guys.
Benito's going to fix that. Now, if you were a follower of Elon Musk on Twitter, you might say, well, Signal is just broken, right?
We should all be going to the secure Telegram, according to Mr. Musk.
Well, of course, as soon as Elon said, well, there's people don't know, but there's security flaws in Signal. As soon as he said that, Meredith Greenitz, or what's her name? Meredith Whitaker at Signal, the CEO, responded saying, what? No, there are no security flaws. It's open source. There are no CVEs active. We fix everything. What are you talking about, Elon? Matthew Green, who I fully respect as an independent cryptographer, he's at Johns Hopkins, very smart guy, on Twitter, by the way, at Mastodon as well, says Telegram has launched a pretty intense campaign to malign Signal as insecure with assistance from Elon Musk. The goal seems to be to get activists to switch away from encrypted Signal which is secure and reliable, to mostly unencrypted Telegram. Now, we should mention Telegram was created by Pavel Durov. They used to call him the Mark Zuckerberg of Russia. He's Russian. Now, I don't know what his relationship is with Putin, because he fled Russia after the Russian government forced him to sell his company to them, then founded Telegram. He's in Dubai right now. But we should be very clear, as Matthew is, Telegram does not end-to-end encrypt conversations by default. Unless you manually start an encrypted secret chat, all of your data is visible on the Telegram server. Given who uses Telegram, Matthew writes, this server is probably a magnet for intelligence services. We should also point out Telegram uses a roll-your-own encryption, which has never been fully vetted, whereas Signal's code is completely open source. You can download it, examine the code, examine the crypto libraries. Matthew writes, even if you don't want to do that, many experts have. That doesn't mean there's never going to be a bug, but it does mean lots of eyes. Pavel Durov, the CEO of Telegram, Matthew goes on to say, has recently been making a big conspiracy push to promote Telegram as more secure than Signal. This is like promoting ketchup.
The car reference.
Yes. This is like promoting ketchup as better for your car than synthetic motor oil. Is that true? I don't think so. Telegram is not a secure messenger, says Matthew. Full stop. Okay, so this is an example of how any social network, even an American-owned and run social network, can be used to promote anti-American or anti-activist BS.
There's a lot of anti-stuff on Twitter.
Oh, it's just one tip of the iceberg, obviously.
Yeah.
Signal is safe. Use Signal. Do not use Telegram. I like Telegram. Right. I wish everybody could use Telegram. I wish all my friends would, because I would use it with everybody because it's fun. It's got stickers. I love it. But it's not secure. Don't kid yourself that it's secure.
And the one caveat I've got to give to people about Signal, which I agree, entirely secure, the one thing that will make it a little less secure is if you're trying to do something like maybe leak sensitive information about your company and to use Signal on your work phone.
Don't use your work
surprise,
phone.
Surprise. Your company can still see that. A lot of Apple employees over the last couple of years have realized.
This is good. You do have to do a little bit of OPSEC. Basically,
you got to have a phone that isn't owned by your employer.
It's not secure until it's sent out over Signal. But when you're typing it in, your company can see it. Okay. That's very good. I like it. Let's see. What else? Oh, Helldivers 2. We talked about this last week.
What is going on with this?
This is a great story.
What is Helldivers 2?
It is the game of the year. Of course, we're only in May, but the game of the year. An independent company created it. It was on Steam. Sony, a couple of weeks ago, announced that in order to play it, you have to have a PlayStation Network account, and you have to log into it, which meant that people in many countries could not play it because PSN was not available in those countries, which meant that the reviews on Steam for Helldivers 2 went from extremely positive to extremely negative. We showed them last week. I can't show them now because it's back. It's better because Sony reversed its decision. The people won in this case. It was something like 500,000 negative reviews.
And then the people came back and brought the reputation back with positive reviews.
They responded, which is
amazing.
So cool. Yeah, but this is I guess in a way a positive story, isn't it? Let me go to because I was going to show you I showed you last week the bad reviews and how bad it was. Now on Steam, mostly positive, 627,000 reviews. And a lot of the newer reviews say things like, "For the love of liberty, democracy has prevailed." For democracy. Sony really, as often is the case with Sony,
consumer activism.
Let's screwed up, and the consumer activism has won. See, See, maybe Steam is the social network of the future. It's going to save us and democracy.
Please, no.
No.
What could go wrong?
Well, I mean, the thing about this story is like, yes, it all sounds good, like the people won, but this is because we gave up 1,000 rights 20 years ago.
It's true that they were able to do this even, right?
Exactly. And so we lost a long time ago, guys.
You know what's sad, Benito, to me? This is Benito Gonzalez, our technical director and producer and editor, produces the show. That's really the important job. What's sad to me is that video games in the early days were highly copy protected. They would do all sorts of they punch a hole in the disc and things like that to make sure you couldn't copy it. But then they realized this is really bad for business. We are making our legit customers into pirates and not slowing down piracy at all. And so they stopped.
I'm curious, have they stopped though?
Well, no, then they turned around. And now it's back.
It's back. There's a lot of games where you have to have online connection for anti-piracy BS. I just saw Anthony posted in the chat that Sony is kind of taking a similar playbook to other games where like people who had pre-ordered the PC port of an upcoming game in countries that don't have access to the PlayStation Network are being notified that their order has been canceled and they're getting auto refunded. It seems like the privacy and piracy controversies just keep getting worse, which is sad for gamers like me.
Aww. Well, are you going to get the new Nintendo Switch when it comes out later this year?
I'm not. I'm Steam Deck pilled.
And what do you play on Steam? You're not playing Animal Crossing anymore, huh?
No, I'm playing. Actually, I just finished a replay of a game I first chatted out on TWiT in November called Pentiment.
I want to play that so bad.
Okay, you should. Jeff should. Everybody should. It's a really cool game where you're like a small artist in a Bavarian alpine town in the 15th century. You're there to work on your masterpiece as like a little illustrator in an abbey, and then a murder happens. It's been described as The Name of the Rose meets Night in the Woods, which is like a kind of indie game recently.
I can't wait to play this.
Murder, She Wrote.
Yeah, and look, I love the graphics. It's
beautiful.
Yeah.
I literally, before I got the email from Benito asking for me to join this emergency TWiT, I wept today because I finished the game. And it was quite sad. I mean, it's just a very emotionally moving game.
How long did it take you to finish it?
It's pretty short. It's like 20 hours.
Well, it's $20. So 20 hours, $20. That's still a deal.
And that was my second playthrough of it too, because there's a lot of choice. It's one of those choices matter games. So I went back and did a couple different things this time, which was fun. But
I know that you have to get out of here in 5 minutes. So we're going to wrap this up pretty quick. I have a couple of things I want to ask you about. Number one, were you offended by the Apple iPad Crush ad? So when Apple announced its new extra thin iPad, they showed a video that took all the things we love, a piano, paintings, all the human creations, synthesizers, and crushed them with a hydraulic press. And then when the press lifted up, all there was this really thin iPad. Apparently, this upsetted people a lot. Did you see it?
Just stupid and tone deaf.
It was pretty tone deaf. I saw it. It didn't bother me because we were watching the event, but I understand what people are saying.
The problem is that that's what the iPad is.
It's kind of too on the nose.
I think people were more just looking at it as this is ridiculous when viewed in the context of at a time when people are increasingly paranoid and frustrated over the rise of AI and the dominance of tech platforms, and it makes them nervous and uncomfortable that creative fields like writing or making music or doing art could all be done away with due to technology. Here you have one of the most valuable tech companies in the world putting out an ad where all of those creative fields are symbolically and physically crushed
Benito,
to make room
you're a
for a tech
DJ.
product.
It starts with a turntable. It's got many of the tools you use.
Yeah, like you.
Did this bother you?
An iPad is not replacing a trumpet. I'm sorry. That is never ever happening. Or a piano.
What about that
never
trumpet
happening.
game where you could go doot doot doot?
Somebody fixed it on Twitter, and
Miles
or maybe it
Davis
was-
ain't playing
Ran
iPad.
it in reverse.
ran it in reverse. And so it started with the iPad, and then it lifted up, and all of these things were there. That made a lot more sense. Apple did apologize, but notice it's still on YouTube. I'm watching it right now on YouTube. Apple said, creativity is in our DNA at Apple, and it's incredibly important to us to design products that empower creatives all over the world. Our goal is to always celebrate the myriad of ways users express themselves and bring their ideas to life through iPad. We missed the mark with this video, and we're sorry. They will never run it on TV.
Cecil Turtle.
I don't know who it was, but yeah, that's close. Okay, so, but it's a tempest in a teapot, but I understand the upset. Yeah.
It does feel kind of quaint to have a news cycle of people getting mad about an ad, though. I mean,
It's true. It's true. Paris Martineau, you are the best ever. Thank you for being here. I'm sorry we're going to miss you this week on This Week in Google because we are moving This Week in Google to Tuesday so we can cover Google I.O. And apparently that's when your skee ball club practices.
yeah, you know, my skee ball practices at 1 p.m. Eastern on a Tuesday. That's definitely not because
What
I
are
have
you
a
doing?
job.
Oh, you're going to work. You have,
I
have a job.
I have this whole thing called a
Oh.
salaried job.
Oh, well, okay. All right. But we will be covering Google I.O. on Tuesday. Without you, sad to say, Jeff and I, we're doing This Week in Google at 10 a.m.
We also got Alex Kantrowitz.
And Alex Kantrowitz of the Big
Ooh.
Technology Podcast. That will be a lot of fun. Thank you, Benito, for scoring that. So he's going to replace you, but you'll be back on This Week in Google a week from
I will.
Wednesday. Yeah.
You can't
Thank
keep
you.
me away.
And if you want to join, you could. If you want to join our Macintosh show, which is going to be airing at MacBreak Weekly, be airing in the This Week in Google time slot. If you want to join and talk about the new iPad, you're more than welcome.
I'll let you know.
Are you getting the new iPad?
No.
No,
I
so you can't
have an old iPad
No, you're
and
not allowed.
it's
Yeah.
fine.
No.
She has a trumpet.
I've got a trumpet, so I don't really need an iPad.
I don't need an
It already
iPad.
does everything.
You crushed it. Thank you, Paris. Thank you to Mr. Sam Abuelsamid, wheelbearings.media, Twit Social. You've spent a lot of time today with us on the Twit. Thank you for your many hours. We
My
appreciate it.
pleasure.
Yeah.
It's always fun chatting with you
Always,
guys.
always great to get your
And
insight.
glad to get to chat with Paris as well.
Yeah.
Always
First
a
time.
pleasure.
She's been a great
she
a
great?
great addition to Twig.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Sam. And thanks to Mike Elgan. Congratulations on the new newsletter, machinesociety.ai. And let's not forget your son's Hello Chatterbox. Because
That's
if you,
right. Teaching AI to children.
Yes.
And it's Chatterbox is the only smart speaker that's legally allowed in schools because it's completely private. He has no way of knowing even who the user is, nor do any of the services they use. So it's really great for education. So if you're an educator, I would get on that. And another thing, Leo, the gastronomic experiences, which are wonderful AI-free, technology-free.
Yes. It's made of
experiences where
people and
experience
food.
Traditional.
It's the best.
Traditions.
And I,
very old school stuff.
Lisa and I went to Oaxaca with Mike and Amira on their gastronomad adventure, and it was amazing. I've made such great friends from it, and I can't wait to go on another one. You got one coming up?
Yes. We, so this is the first time I've talked about this publicly. We just put this up. So we're launching a new one in Sicily.
Okay.
So the Sicily gastronomic experience.
I want to go.
We love Sicily, and it's just a beautiful food culture there. That's Arabic food, Spanish food, Greek, Phoenician. You name it. It's a great place. So we're really excited about that. And I also want to tell people who are interested in doing these experiences that they're filling up earlier and earlier. So it's like 8-10 months before the experience, they are filling up completely.
You know why? Because people go on these ones, keep coming back. It's such an amazing experience.
Yes.
And so your real problem is it's only, a few couples. And basically, as soon as you go on one, you go, okay, I'm booking the next 10. Thank you. I want to do this one. I really want to do this one.
We had a guy who did one, and then he did another one, and now he's got 10 couples that are friends of his that are all doing it, and it's just
word of mouth
keeps snowballing like that. So,
and it's so small because it's just Mike and Amira and the chefs and the restaurants and the culture that they know so well all over the
winemakers.
world. Love it. Yeah. Gastronomad.net. I guess Sicily will be a lot of good wine. Can't wait.
A lot.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Sam.
All
Paris,
right, thank you, Leo.
get out of here. You got to go. Go play that skee ball thing.
I got to go watch get to a 9:45 showing of the movie In Bruges. So thank you for
I love that
allowing me to
movie.
do that. It's fantastic.
Oh,
I'm excited to see it in the cute little theater.
Oh, Bruges is so beautiful. Well, have a great show. That sounds like fun.
I shall.
Mike, when are you going to
Bye,
do
guys.
Bruges for a Gastronomad adventure? That would be
That's
awesome.
a great idea. Maybe next month. No, I don't.
It's the most beautiful,
Who knows? We're-
beautiful town. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's adorable.
In Belgium. Thank you, all three of you. Have a wonderful evening. And thanks to all of you for joining us. We do This Week in Tech every Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. That's 2100 UTC. You can watch us do it live. We turn on the live streams right when the show begins on YouTube, youtube.com/twit/live. I think all the shows we do that with, including tomorrow's 10 a.m. broadcast of the OpenAI keynote. Jeff Jarvis and I can't wait to see what OpenAI is going to announce. And then the following day, same time, 10 a.m. Pacific for Google I.O. to see what they are announcing. We live in interesting times, and we are very happy to be here to cover it for you. Your support, of course, much appreciated. Thank you to all the Club Twit members. If you're not a member yet, may I invite you personally to join. We'd love to have you. twit.tv/clubtwit for more information. After the fact, on-demand versions of the show available at twit.tv. On YouTube, there's a video channel dedicated to This Week in Tech. And, of course, you can subscribe. That's probably the best way to do it. That way you'll get it immediately as soon as Benito cleans it up and makes us sound smart. That's when we'll put it out. Thank you, Benito. Thank you, John, Jammer B. Thanks to all of you for joining us. We'll see you next time. As we have said now in our 20th year. Wow. Another twit is in the can. Bye-bye.
This is amazing.